Are live. Welcome to MLB Live Before Lock. It is Wednesday, May 17th. I have forgotten that date like 4 or 5 times today already in content, but whatever. It's still Wednesday, May 17th. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by no one right now, but I will be joined by Ship My Money. I don't know, maybe in the next 10 minutes. We'll see. It'll be up in the air. I will be joined by someone at some point, I think, but that's fine. I can handle this stuff. This is not my first show. Certainly won't be my last. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Sign up for Prize Picks. You see the banner at the top of the screen. I'm a big fan of Prize Picks. I put out a Prize Picks video 6 days a week. For the past 3 days, they've all won. 15 out of the last 18 things that I've picked have won. I'm just really good at this, folks. So check out Prize Picks. Click the link in the description. We got 7 games to talk about. We've got aggressive chalk coming out of my boy, Spencer Strider, 12K and owned by half of the field. That should be a fun one for everybody else. Figuring out your second pitcher is probably the more difficult thing for you to do today. We're going to have fun. We've got 3 straight hours of shows coming up. This show is going to run all the way up until 6:30. You'll then get PGA Live Before Lock from 6:30 to 7:30. They're going to be talking PGA Championship, big major this week. Great course, too. Really fun set of 4 days of golf that I'm going to be dipping my toe into, that's for sure. And then you get NBA Live Before Lock tonight at 7:30, taking you all the way up to 8:30. Celtics, Heat, Game 1. It's going to be fun. Malakar says Pistons got screwed in the draft lotto. They got what they deserve. They got what they deserve. Not because they're from Detroit, but that certainly plays a role. But you want to tank to the bottom, you're getting yanked. I think Cade Cunningham could have played a little bit more this year. Didn't happen because they were tanking to the bottom. Tough scene for the Pistons. Maybe they could take another center. I think they have that kind of thing empty on their roster. I'm going to talk a little bit of baseball here. I've got all of my projections and everything locked and loaded. Ownership locked and loaded. Top stacks, top pitchers. And we really have a lot of really good stuff for baseball. You should sign up clicking, I don't know, some link in the description. I'm sure there's one there for signing up for our website. Just do it. Find the discount. Sign up for us. Now, let's talk a little bit of baseball. I'm just diving right into this slate because I could filibuster a little bit longer if I needed to. But that's no fun, and we're running out of time. We've got to be out of here at 6:30 for the PGA show. San Antonio Spurs, yeah, getting Wemby is fun to see. They'll be an interesting team. I'd like to see them spray some money out there. Like, do you throw a crap ton of money at Draymond Green as a free agent and just say, like, okay, let's see what these next couple of years look like when he can learn from him? Or instead of talking about that, I unfortunately now have to steer this conversation back to baseball because my illustrious co-host is now here. Adam, what's good?
How's it going?
It's going. It's going. Yeah, it's one of those days. How's your day going? How's the early baseball for you?
Not great. Had some decent teams, but that doesn't look too likely anything's going to get there.
Fair enough. Nice to see you. We've got about 50 minutes to break down these 7 games. Are you ready?
Sort of, yeah.
Fair enough. Would you like me to filibuster a little bit longer so that you can get your ducks in a row?
Yeah, sure. 21 more minutes.
I could try it, but it's just going to become an NBA draft show. So not that I would be mad about that. I would certainly enjoy that.
Who should I be wanting the Wizards to take?
I'm sure there's some like college senior 5'8" white point guard type guy that you can grab, right? Some guy that has like was already draft eligible last year that no one took.
Right.
This is one of those guys available.
Yeah. So far, like I've seen a couple names linked to them that actually seem like competent basketball players. So I assume they'll go a different direction.
Well, it is a very interesting time for the Wizards, considering they do not have a general manager at this moment. And the prevailing wisdom is that they won't by draft day.
It's an upgrade.
Yeah, it certainly didn't go well for them in the past. Although, are you getting, you're still not watching the NBA playoffs, right? You don't enjoy fun
I mean, occasionally. I didn't watch yesterday.
You didn't watch any of your boy Rui Hachimura becoming the defender of Nikola Jokic and going 8 of 11 from the field?
No, I didn't, but I did have money on the Nuggets, so that switch, I was like paying attention to the score. I just wasn't watching, and I was not. Actually, I did put it on at the end. Yeah, I put it on, saw them cut it to 3, was really unhappy, but
Yeah. So yeah, Rui thriving. Just had to get out of Washington. Seems to be didn't work for John Wall though.
no, it didn't.
So
Yeah,
out of curiosity though, like I know this is a baseball show, but fuck it, we're already deep into this one. What do you want to happen with Kuzma and Porzingis?
I don't really know what my options are.
Well, like, do you want them back? Do you think there's any path to that? Like, are you like vehemently opposed to any of that scenario?
No, I mean, I have just kind of assumed that they're all coming back. I feel like that's probably the best the Wizards can do. Like,
Yeah.
Porzingis is really good. Kuzma got better.
Yeah.
I don't really know that they're getting anything better than those two.
I would doubt it. And they should be pretty easily, barring a like Kuzma on pretty much whatever deal he signs is tradable. Like he can get into a rotation somewhere else. Porzingis is tradable until he's injured, but
Right.
I mean, he certainly had an exceptional season. So I didn't know where you stood on like what they were doing there. I'm sure you would love to get rid of Beal.
Yeah, I mean,
Just, like,
it sucks.
to get
Like,
off of
I
the
like
contract.
Beal. I like Beal,
Right.
but like the contract sucks. He's always hurt. Yeah, I mean, and I love Porzingis. Like if he can, obviously huge if, but if he can be healthy like he was last year, he's actually legitimately very, very good.
Yeah. I mean, that starting 5 of Porzingis, Kuzma, Beal, let's say Kispert or Avdi, I don't care which one we pick, and Johnny Davis is really going to run through the East in the future. You ready to do this?
Yeah.
Toronto Blue Jays, New York Yankees, coin flip game here. Chris Bassett on the hill for Toronto, Garrett Cole going for the Yanks. Cole, $11,500, $500 cheaper than Spencer Strider today. Bassett on the opposite side, $7,400. Both pitchers pulling about 15% ownership. Let's start with Cole. How do you see Cole in this matchup going up against obviously a very difficult Toronto Blue Jays lineup, but coming in at less than half of the ownership to Spencer Strider? What do you do here?
Yeah, I mean, he's showing up around like 15% of the time for me. Not in terms of what lineups I'm playing because I haven't built those yet, but just in terms of like where he's showing up when I, crunch stuff and just try and get an idea of like how often somebody should be rostered. He's showing up, right around 15 to 16% of the time. So I think the ownership's pretty much correct on him. We have him going a little bit under owned here at 22%. Strider to me is the preferred option, but they do both still have difficult matchups. Seager's back for the Rangers, so that matchup gets even more difficult for Strider. I think Strider's the better strikeout pitcher than Cole, but Cole obviously very good as well. 3.9 implied run total for the Blue Jays, 3.4 for the Rangers when you compare the two. So I do think Strider should be more popular, but you are still getting a very, very high ceiling from Garrett Cole at a fraction of the ownership, like you said. So far this year, Garrett Cole striking out 27.4% of hitters, 3.09 FIP. Very, very good. Not on the same planet as Spencer Strider, striking out 42.9% with a 1.63 FIP. So Strider is one of the only pitchers in baseball where it's like there is a level between him and Garrett Cole. Normally if you see an ace getting 3 times the ownership of Garrett Cole, it's just immediately like, okay, give me some Garrett Cole because it's Garrett Cole at a third of the ownership. But, these are not actually comparable pitchers, as crazy as that is.
Yeah, it is nuts. Remember we were getting Strider at like 8K on random days, and it was just like, what is happening here?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when he first moved to the rotation last year, looking at him and like you looked at his stuff as a reliever and it was just like, holy shit. But there's no way this translates to him as a starter. And it translated.
Sure did. What do you want to do with Bassett on the opposite side? You get to pay down here, but you're facing a Yankees lineup that isn't exactly fun to get to. It might not be like the most treacherous Yankees lineup you've ever seen, but it's still good.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. Bassett hasn't been particularly good this year. He is coming off of a very, very good start his last time out. Overall, 21.5 to 22% strikeout percentage against righties, 19% to lefties. The salary is favorable. We have him with a 14% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 16% ownership, but also a 19% chance of being a top 2 value. So I think he just sort of shows up here and there, not because you're very confident in him, but because he's just cheap and good enough that, he can give you a decent start. Like you said, the Yankees lineup, it's good. It's not quite as good as, it normally would be. Still no Stanton, no Donaldson. So it's kind of weird. We've talked about it, a lot recently, where it's not quite as scary as a lot of other versions of the Yankees lineups that we've seen over the years. It probably is a little bit more difficult to strike out when, you have LeMahieu batting cleanup, you have Calhoun in there. Bowers, I guess, strikes out a good amount. So does Bader. So this isn't even the worst lineup for strikeouts, but it's just like a different Yankees lineup. Like you would never think about DJ LeMahieu batting cleanup for the Yankees, but it just makes it different. Judge obviously is great. Torres, Rizzo are fine. Bowers is cheap. So I still think it's a pretty scary matchup for Bassett, but I think the price tag makes up for that too. So he's kind of just a secondary, mid-range option.
Just to confirm, you guys didn't talk this slate earlier today, right?
No, we just did the morning.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was like hitting on this stuff in the correct way. Offense here is probably going to be a little bit more of a tough sell. You're seeing the Yankees have better top stack odds and pull a little bit more ownership. That should not be surprising. The Yankees face Bassett. The Blue Jays get to face Garrett Cole. Do you see yourself getting to either one of these offenses? It is a 7-game slate, so like it's appealing and it's not appealing at the same time.
Yeah, I'm somewhat interested, particularly in the Yankees side, because Bassett, again, just hasn't been that good this year. He's struggled the most with left-handed power, 191 expected ISO. Rizzo, 4,600 is going to look pretty good. Jake Bauers, min salary at 5K is going to look pretty good. Calhoun's only 2,200. So I like that you get, you don't have a ton of left-handed power in the Yankees lineup, which is a, point in Bassett's direction, but you get Rizzo, who we know is good, and then you just get two really cheap hitters that at least have some power in Bowers and Calhoun. And then clearly you're not going to be upset about rounding out your stacks with Aaron Judge and Torres or LeMahieu or Bader, whoever. So I do have some interest in the Yankees right now in terms of top stacks. They are middle of the pack with a 6% chance of being the top stack, 5% top value, 6% ownership, just completely middle of the pack across the board.
Similar story for Blue Jays, just can't really get there because of Cole on the opposite side. And with him not pulling any as much ownership as you could expect on a 7-gamer, I feel like some of the utility is gone too, other than just being like, oh, well, it'd be really cool to have Matt Chapman and George Springer in a lineup.
Right. Like that's kind of it's the Blue Jays at home. They have a ton of power. Weirdly, Cole has actually had issues with right-handed power this year. For most of his career, it was lefties that got to him. Then he got to where he was just really good against everybody. So far this year, a 191 expected ISO to righties, sub 100 to lefties. If that's real and is going to continue, the Blue Jays are a really, really dangerous spot because they have right-handed power top to bottom. Obviously, Varsho and Belt from the left side, but very deep lineup with a lot of guys that can do damage. But I'm also not buying into this as like, Garrett Cole does have home run issues. He has basically forever. But aside from giving up a home run here, I'm not looking at this like, Garrett Cole's going to suddenly be a liability against right-handed bats or anything. So it's a 7-game slate. The Blue Jays aren't going to be very popular. They have a lot of really good hitters. That's still probably not going to be enough for me to get there. They're second from the bottom in stack score. The only team they're ahead of is Texas against Strider.
I'm stealing this back again. I used it yesterday with Neil. I know Neil's been using it. Rank the 4 pieces of this game.
So between Cole and Bassett, it's weird.
Yeah, it is.
Cole is obviously the preferred piece, but he also costs $4,000 more. So Bassett in a lot of lineups is going to be the more useful piece. I will say Cole 1, Bassett 2, just because obviously I would prefer to have Cole. Yankees 3, Blue Jays 4.
There we go. All right, we'll keep it moving then. Why is this in the wrong order? I know why it's in the wrong order, because I'm a moron. No disagreements from my co-host on that one. Red Sox and Mariners, 4.9 run implied total for the Sox, 4.5 for the Mariners. Brian Bello and Marco Gonzalez on the hill here. Bello is owned the same way that Cole and I already forgot who the hell Bassett. Or basically, it's Spencer Strider getting 55% ownership. Cole, Eovaldi, Senga, Burns, France, Bassett, and Bello, all basically 15% owned. And then if you didn't hear that a name there, then you probably aren't rostering those other guys. So what do you want to do with them? Bello, 5,700, Marco Gonzalez, 7,100, and unowned.
So Bello is interesting just because of the salary. He is extremely boom or bust. He's got good stuff. He's a promising pitching prospect. We saw him come up last year, had some issues or major issues with walks. Gets behind accounts, but does do a good job getting ground balls, even, looking back at his minor league numbers. He has good strikeout stuff. It's just a matter of, can he work in the strike zone and work ahead in counts? So at 5,700, though, it turns into this situation where, like, if Brian Bayo has command in this game, he's clearly underpriced based on his talent level. But then on the other side, if he doesn't have it, the Mariners look really good. This isn't like your, like your, fifth guy in the number 5 starter where he just strikes out 18% of hitters, but he's decent at preventing runs and you're just not really excited about anything. This guy is very much at this price tag. Either he's going to destroy his salary or he's going to get lit up. It's very likely to be one of those two things given how cheap he is. So it does make him interesting. Just, given the upside that he has. On the other side, Marco Gonzalez, not really a pitcher I ever want to get to. He's sort of the opposite of Bayo. Like he's more of the guy that I was just describing, where it's like, well, Marco Gonzalez doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. Typically he's going to get, just some infield fly balls, routine fly balls to the outfield. Not a very good pitcher, but not somebody that, you necessarily want a ton of bats against. So not getting to Gonzalez. I think Boston still looks okay here. Like, this is a dangerous park for Marco Gonzalez. You think about, a left-handed pitcher who is prone to giving up fly balls and doesn't throw hard, so you're likely to get pulled fly balls. And then you put a wall 300 feet from home plate in left field. It sets up as a really scary spot for Gonzalez to pitch. So I do like getting some of these right-handed power bats for the Red Sox. You have Ref Snyder up there hitting third at 2,800. Now, keep in mind, he probably will get pinch hit for once the Mariners bring in a right-handed pitcher. But Justin Turner, you can play Devers. I mean, you can play Devers against anybody. You can play Verdugo here. Yoshida from the left side also. Kike Hernandez right-handed. So I wish there was more right-handed power in the Red Sox lineup, but it is still a decent spot.
Which spot is better? We've got Red Sox number 1 in top stack, 5th in ownership. We've got the Mariners number 2 in top stack, separated by a 1/10 of a percentage point, I might add, 6th in ownership. These teams look very similar on opposite sides. Which one's better to get to? Are the Mariners the better team to get to just because of Bayo's ownership?
I think it's really close. And I think that is a good point. It's not something that I directly factor in. It does, indirectly show up just because the more popular a pitcher is, the less ownership there's going to be coming to the other team. I like the Mariners partly they're on the road, which is nice. So, like, you're guaranteed that extra at bat. Doesn't make a huge difference, but I kind of just like their lineup more too. Like, Gonzalez isn't lights out against left-handed pitching by any stretch. Since the start of last year, 150 expected ISO to lefties, 15.8% strikeout percentage. But Boston Fenway Park does play better for right-handed power. So, again, it's not that I'm shying away from Yoshida and Devers and Verdugo, but I prefer having the option of getting to, France from the right side, Suarez, Hernandez, those guys that can take advantage of the wall and right. You don't have, the same pinch hit risk in this lineup. And then obviously, Crawford's cheap leading off. Kelenic looks good. Raleigh's a good catching option. So that's another thing I like about the Mariners is that they cover some weaker positions. When you look at the Red Sox, not to take anything away from Connor Wong, but he's not the most exciting catcher option, whereas Cal Raleigh's a good hitting catcher, has a lot of power. So you cover that spot. JP Crawford's not the best hitter, but he's leading off as a cheap shortstop, a relatively weak position. So I always, tend to get the stacks a little bit more if the more appealing hitters in that stack actually play positions where there's less opportunity cost.
Rank this game, which I feel like is very difficult to do other than saying Marco Gonzalez is 4th.
Yeah, I was going to say, going from the bottom, Marco Gonzalez is 4. It's going to depend on what your lineup looks like, sort of. Like, Bayo's really cheap, so he's going to be a really useful piece where you're spending on bats or, pairing him with Strider or whatever it may be. Like I said, I think I slightly prefer the Seattle side to the Red Sox side, but that obviously is very, very, very close. So I guess I will go Seattle 1, Red Sox 2, Bayo 3, Gonzalez 4.
There it is.
But like, that's with the full expectation that Bayo could end up being the guy that I play the most from this game solely because of his price.
To the 300 people that are in the door right now, hit that thumbs up. We're going to try to run that number up to 100. If we can get a third of you to hit the like button. It will be very helpful. You guys should do that so that we can continue to put out things like the MLB lineup generator, which I think you guys will be interested in because this is an MLB show. 50% off your first week, less than $5. We handle all of the creation for you. We generate all the lineups on the back end. We get rid of all the ones that we think stink. We present the rest to you. Chalky, contrarian, balanced. You could lock players in. You're choosing your stacks, so you can go 5-3 or 4-4 on DraftKings, or 4-4s or 4-3s on FanDuel. We're going to present that all to you for less than $5. This is the easiest way for you guys to get better at DFS because you're going to see the projections, the ownership, optimal rates, all that kind of good stuff. And you could export up to 20 of these lineups via CSV. Link in the description. Less than $5. You won't find a better deal elsewhere that will allow you to just simply be better at DFS. You might not see that in your first week, but you are going to save the time. You are going to see a better constructed lineup. I'm confident in that. So you see it on the screen right now. Sign up for the lineup generator, people. That's what you should do. And we're up to 68 likes. We're climbing. We're climbing. Game 3, Mets and Rays. 4.4 run implied total for the Mets. 4.1 for the Rays. Senga pulling 17% ownership. Add him to the list of pitchers getting 10 or 15 to 20% ownership. Fleming on the opposite side. Add him to the list of guys that are getting 0 ownership. How are you feeling about Senga today?
It scares the shit out of me.
Yeah,
he's showing up around 17% in just the background crunch that I did as well. So like I get why the ownership's there. It's just a function of you don't have a lot of pitching on the slate that you feel great about. You have Strider, like you said. And even that's again, a tough matchup, but Cole's got a tough matchup. Evaldi's expensive and has a tough matchup. There's not a ton that you're really confident in. So Senga's just going to show up. The strikeout stuff's been good. That's about it. 26.5% strikeout percentage so far for him in his first year in the majors. That's good. 14% walk percentage is not. 4.95 FIP is not. 1.5 home runs per 9 is not. Facing the best team in baseball, also not ideal. So you do have a 4.1 implied run total for the Rays. That is one of the lower run totals we've seen for them. That, I guess is a reason for optimism here, but also no Yandy Diaz. He's on the injured list, I believe. So a little bit weaker lineup than usual, but still a very, very, very dangerous matchup for a pitcher that has not dominated the major leagues so far. But at the same time, he does, certainly have strikeout upside. So I think that 17% ownership is more or less where it should be. We have him with an 18% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Price tag's about where it should be. He's just another high upside pitcher that I also have no confidence in because he's in a really tough matchup.
Let's talk bats here. Senga, 17% owned. The Rays are 4th in top stack, actually ahead of the Mets in this spot. They are 7th in ownership. Mets are 6th and 11th. Is this a spot where you're just going to both sides for bats?
Probably, yeah. And I do like the lack of ownership coming into the Rays right now. Now, Boston, Seattle, and the White Sox are the 3 teams ahead of them in top stack percentage, and they all are similarly owned and also similarly under-owned. So it's not like Tampa Bay stands out as a top priority, but this is just a team that manages to hit pretty much every game. It's not a great park for hitting, but still, they're a high upside offense. The top of the order is pretty expensive. The bottom of the order is a lot cheaper. The bottom of the order also not nearly as good at hitting, but you have Josh Lowe leading off. He is somehow $4,900. I don't know how he's gotten that expensive, but he is. Wander Franco, Rosarena, both north of 5K. Brandon Lau at 4,700. But after that, the most expensive hitter in the lineup is Taylor Walls, hitting 6th at 3,800. So as a full stack, it's going to be pretty easy to find ways to get there. Either, you take all 4 of the top guys that are expensive, and then you just use somebody like Brian Bayo or Chris Bassett to save some salary, or you mix in the bottom of the order a little bit at the expense of the guys at the top, and then you can get better pitching. So there are ways you can get here. It is a very high upside spot. The one thing that I do think will probably keep my exposure to Tampa Bay in check is that right now, like, all of the best stacks are going a little bit under-owned.
That does make things very interesting for a 7-game slate where it's like somehow getting to all of the top stuff is also still appealing.
Right.
How do we shake these guys out then? How are you ranking this one? Because much like the last game, I think we're saying Fleming is last, and then it's
exactly. And even the Senga's weird too, because like even if you look at, he doesn't have splits really. Lefties this year, 26.5% strikeout percentage, righties 26%, 150 expected ISO to lefties, 155 to righties, 347 expected WOBA to lefties, 315 to righties. So a little bit of a gap there, but it's kind of just a spot where like if he's on, he's going to be really good. If he's not, then everybody looks good against him. So probably Senga 1, Rays 2, Mets 3, Fleming 4. But if you wanted to flip the Rays and Senga, I would not argue with you.
Right.
If you wanted to flip the Mets and the Rays, I wouldn't argue with you.
Yeah, I think Mets just being a little bit more cost effective is a benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have 2 guys in the top 5 for the Mets that are less than $3,000 on DraftKings.
Yeah. That ends up being mildly helpful.
Yeah. I hate the opener thing. I hate taking people against Tampa anyway. They just have so many just good arms.
Anything else we should touch on here for Mets and Rays?
I don't think so. For Fleming specifically, I mean, not a huge sample this year, but 116 expected ISO to righties, only striking out 7% of them, but not giving up a lot of power there. Sub 100 expected ISO to lefties with a 32% strikeout percentage. Since the start of last year, 10% K percentage, 172 expected ISO to righties. Sub 100 expected ISO with a 29% strikeout percentage against lefties. Not surprisingly, the Mets are running 8 right-handed bats out there. Brandon Nimmo's leading off. And other than that, everybody will be hitting right-handed.
Well, then we're going to go to game number 4. Cardinals and Brewers. Both teams sub 4 run totals. I always whiff on this. Liberator? No.
Liberatory.
I don't like it. That guy's going for the Cards. Corbin Burns going for Milwaukee. Corbin Burns, right around 20% owned. How are you managing the pitching here? This seems like a matchup, at least based on what I see in the top stack tool, where pitching will be the priority over hitting.
Yeah, Burns is kind of a tough one because he hasn't been great this year. He hasn't really been good this year. 21% strikeout percentage, 4.1 FIP. You know, that's just kind of like normal stuff, but certainly not what you expect from Corbin Burns. But his price tag has come down as a result. You know, he's $8,600. So if you're going to have, you know, Chris Bassett with his 4.87 FIP, 20.5% strikeout percentage at 7,400, it makes sense for Burns to be $1,000 or so more expensive, especially when you factor in Burns' track record of being a very good strikeout pitcher. The Cardinals are a very difficult team to figure out in general. They have a bunch of guys in their lineup that have track records of being good at hitting and should be good at hitting. And for a lot of the season so far, they've been absolute garbage. So it's another one where it's like, you know, at some point, this team's going to figure out how to hit based on who is in their lineup. And we saw it the other day when they scored 18 runs. You know, maybe that's the start of something, but who knows? So it's still, even though they haven't been good this year, it's still a dangerous matchup. Like, you know who most of these guys are, and they have track records of being able to hit. So I don't love the matchup. I don't love what we've seen from Burns this year, but him being $8,600 does mitigate a lot of that. You know, when you think about the Corbin Burns that you're used to, this is always a $10,000 or $10,500 pitcher. So getting that drop in salary is fine. And then when you think about it in the context of this slate, you're also just, you know, good luck finding pitchers that you don't have question marks about. So 19 to 20% ownership coming in, 15% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, showing up around 19% for me as well. So that's about where I think the ownership should be. No real issues getting there. Liberatory showing up around 16% in my, background crunch. He's pulling 8% ownership. So that is someone that I think maybe going a little bit overlooked. Only $7,400, making his first start of the season. 8 starts at AAA this year, 46 innings pitched. He's a pretty highly regarded prospect, if I remember correctly. Was not great when he came up last year, I don't believe, but still only 23 years old, former first-round pick. He 7 starts, 9 total appearances in the majors last year, 34 2/3 innings pitched. He only struck out 17% there. Projects for an 18 to 20% strikeout percentage in the majors, depending where you look. At AAA this year, did strike out 30% of hitters with a 3.69 FIP. So, he's talented. Fangraphs has him as a top 100 prospect. At very little ownership, I don't mind taking some shots on him at 7,400.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Would you rather take shots on the Brewers on the opposite side? Because number 1 in stack score, number 1 in value. This team is basically free.
Number 1 in stack score?
That's the way that I have it from the last run that I had. Has that changed?
I have them 7th in stack score. Second in value.
Then we had an update.
Are you on DraftKings?
Yeah. I mean, I had this pasted into my sheet from the jump. So it was 10th in top stack, 1st in top value, 5th in
Oh
ownership.
no. I was the one that needed to refresh.
Huh.
I don't know
why would I doubt myself.
I don't know how they jumped that far, but yeah, they're first now. 20.6% top value percentage. I guess that's how.
I hate that I didn't just talk shit, being like, do you need to refresh it or get off of FanDuel?
Yeah, so I mean they are really cheap. I think I still prefer Liberatore. Like, this is not a good lineup.
Okay. No, it is not a good lineup. I've got it at 97 aggregate WRC plus. Doesn't help when you have an 84 in the leadoff spot. 97 is the low mark on today's slate. The next closest team is the Cubs at 105. That is a chasm.
Yeah, I mean, so things that I like, in addition to the fact that they're really cheap. Owen Miller, 2,400 leading off, second base and third base eligibility. So, like, you can play this free leadoff hitter anywhere. Or at two positions. But William Contreras hitting second, catcher, typically a tough position to fill. You have a $3,700 guy that can hitting second. Willie Adames, is he really only 4K?
That's what I have it as. 4K shortstop.
Willie Adames being 4K is something that should just never happen. That looks really good. But then after that, the problem you run into is like Darren Ruff is cheap hitting cleanup. That's nice, but he's probably coming out of the game as soon as a righty comes in for the Cardinals. Brian Anderson's fine, third base outfield. Then you get, like a free bottom of the order, which is fine, but not the best hitters down there. So I don't know. I mean, I get the case for the Brewers. It's going to be really easy to get to Strider, and I'm sure you could go Strider Cole if you wanted to and get to the Brewers. But I think I kind of prefer the Liberatore side still, just because overall this lineup sucks.
Overall, this lineup does suck. That is a very true statement. No disagreement there whatsoever.
I want to see the individual hitter ownerships here, because as a whole, the Brewers are around 8 to 9% aggregate ownership. Yeah. But I'm kind of curious, like, that's an interesting number to me if it's just kind of like flat. But if you're just getting like no ownership to the really bad hitters and then like 20% to Contreras and Adames, that becomes a lot less interesting. And that's
18 to Contreras, 12 to Miller, 10 to Adames, single digits after that.
Right, which that makes it less appealing, like when you evaluate it on an individual standpoint. Sure. I don't necessarily want to be playing a bunch of Bryce Turang and Joey Wiemer to be different. Like, I want to be playing Contreras and Adames, and those guys aren't getting ownership discounts. Although I am surprised that Adames is only 10% at 4K.
Yeah, it's a great price tag and great positionality, great basically everything. Lefty righty matchup. Like, you're checking off just about every box.
This year? Or is it a broken price?
Yeah, I'm the guy to ask.
I mean, 170 ISO, 91 WRC plus. So yeah, he's been bad this year, but like this is just an example of where, could he just not be good? Sure, but it's much, much, much more likely that it's just been a bad month and a half of hitting.
Yeah. Oh, what's more likely? 120 WRC plus on 550 plate appearances 2 years ago, 109 and 617 last year, 91 and 180 this year. Like, It's just, if you open up stats or if you pull some Sean V nonsense and you're like, well, he's got a 91, well, he would probably quote like he's got a 216 average this season. Maybe take in more data. That's all I'll say. Anything you want to point out for the Cardinals bats here against Burns?
Not really. I mean, Burns isn't somebody I'm typically going to want to target. Again, he hasn't been as good this year, but it's the same kind of thing. He has dealt with some injuries, so it's a little bit scarier. We don't have any like obvious reason that like Willie Adames would just fall off at age 27. But Burns has dealt with some stuff, but still just a track record of being a good pitcher. He has had issues with right-handed power this year in particular. 136 actual ISO to righties, but a 215 expected ISO and a 360 expected WOBA allowed. If you wanted to go to the Cardinals, like if you're just saying like, I'm going to play the Cardinals, what stands out, that it is that he has really struggled with same-handed power this year. So you have Goldschmidt, Arenado, Contreras in the middle of the lineup that would look pretty appealing if you want to go that route, but probably not one that I'll take.
Rank the four.
Burns, Liberatore, Brewers, Cardinals.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. I think I'm taking I think I'm taking the Brewers bats before Liberatore, but I think I can go either direction.
No real issue there.
Yeah.
I really just like the 8% ownership coming in. Assuming that, I guess I should refresh that too. I thought
no, it's still 8 if it helps.
Okay, yeah.
Folks, Prize Picks, presenting sponsor. I'm leading off with this stuff because we'll get you goods first. Up to $100 on your first deposit and a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum if you sign up using the link in the description. You should also just be tailing my videos because all I'm handing you guys are winners over and over and over again. Go watch the videos on the Odd Shopper channel. You can see it. What you're doing on Prize Picks, you're picking... I don't remember the word that we're supposed to use. The one that we're not supposed to use is littered through the documentation in front of my face, but I don't remember what I'm supposed... Prize Picks projections or something. I don't remember what I'm supposed to call them. You're taking over-unders on whatever they post on their site. I can't remember their buzzword for the day. That's probably not a good thing to say. Doesn't matter. You should play there. I'm crushing it. Everybody that's watching the videos, crushing it. You can use BetPro. That will help you out tremendously if you want even more volume at Prize Picks. They are giving you the opportunity to potentially win up to $1 million if you put together 6 pick flex cards and you get randomly selected for the night. If you hit all 6, you can get $1 million. 5 will get you $80K. 4 will get you $16K. Last night, somebody hit for 80. Go for the full milli, folks. I see no reason not to do that. But the big key here, get the $100 deposit bonus. So put in 100, get 100. Get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Prize Picks, everybody. Prize Picks. Take, what did I get today? Bam Adebayo over 35 fantasy points. Robert Williams over 9 rebounds. Those are the goods for today. Rangers Braves. Nathan Eovaldi, Spencer Strider. Eovaldi, 19% owned here. 10,100, $1,400 cheaper than Garrett Cole. Spencer Strider, 12K. Finally starting to get some pitcher prices on DraftKings all the way up at the tippy top again. 56% owned. Let's just start with Strider.
He's actually, I think, the first pitcher we've talked about that appears to be going over owned pretty significantly in terms of, top 2 pitcher percentage or optimal percentage, however you want to refer to it, compared to ownership. We have him 32% top 2. He's showing up around like 35% in the stuff I ran, so same page. But it's still just one spot in your lineup, and he's clearly the top projected pitcher on the slate. We have him projected 5 points higher than Garrett Cole. So I don't mind that he's going quote unquote over owned because I just still have 9 spots in my lineup that can be different. It is always somewhat appealing to not go to a 12K pitcher that more than half the field's rostering, just because that's going to allow you to get to, different roster constructions. But I also just don't think that hitter pricing is efficient enough that that's really a big deal today. Like we've already talked about some really, really cheap hitting rather in decent spots. I'm not super high on the Brewers, but still having a 4K Adames or a $2,400 Miller. You have, a lot of cheap bats on the Mets, for example. You have a cheap bottom of the order for Tampa Bay. You have relatively cheap Red Sox lineup, depending on where you look. So it's just, I think, pretty easy to get to good stacks with Strider. And that makes me less inclined to get away from him. Just very clearly the best pitcher on the slate. I've said it many times this year. I view Major League pitching right now as Spencer Strider and Jacob deGrom on their own planet, and then everybody else pretty far below them.
I'm really surprised to see Eovaldi pulling 20% ownership in this spot. Does that feel high to you? Just like in this spot against the Braves, like it just
it feels high. It feels high, but he showed up like 19% in my stuff too. So I think it just goes back to outside of Spencer Strider, everything just feels like meh. And it all just ends up coming in like 15 to 20%. So he has been very good this year. He has a 27% strikeout percentage. He's only walking 4% of hitters, 1.95 FIP. Like he's been extremely good. And he is somebody that typically can go, pretty deep into games as well. He's striking out righties at a 28.8% clip, 114 expected ISO, 106 expected ISO, and a 25% strikeout percentage against lefties. But this is also a dangerous matchup against Atlanta. The thing is, though, dangerous matchup for Strider, dangerous matchup for Cole, dangerous matchup for Burns. You don't have any aces facing the A's today or anything like that. Which is one sort of cause for concern actually on Eovaldi. If you look at who he's faced, most recent start against the A's, faced the Angels, faced the Yankees, Reds, Kansas City twice, Cubs, Phillies. Not the most difficult strength of schedule, but it hasn't really mattered. I mean, 8 2/3 against Oakland last start with 12 Ks. Obviously, that's a minor league team, but 8 innings against the Angels, 5 strikeouts, complete game against the Yankees, 8 strikeouts. So, he's been good even against the better offenses that he's faced. But it is, worth keeping in mind probably that his numbers are skewed a little bit by facing some weak teams. But he's, based on what he's done this year, he has fully warranted this price tag.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those things where, and I think you detailed it perfectly. You look at it and it's like, I don't feel like that's the right ownership. And then you run all the data and it's like, oh, I guess somebody has to get owned. Can you go to bats here? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you. Like, you could basically, when you talk about the non-Strider pitchers, they're either all going to be like 15 to 20% owned, or one of them would need to be like 35, 40%. And there's sure as hell not one of these guys that you're like, oh, well, I think he should be 35 or 40%.
We're on the same page now. We're not going to the Rangers bats here, right? They're like, there's no justification for 14th in top stack value, ownership, and stack score other than the obvious.
No, yeah. The justification would be like the Rangers have a bunch of really good hitters. It's not somewhere I expect to get to.
Well, talk to me here about the Braves bats. 7th in top stack, 12th in top value, 2nd in ownership. Are we just running the opposite direction as fast as possible today?
Yeah, I don't really get the ownership here at all. They're 4th from the bottom in stack score. They're not a valuable, they're expensive. They're facing not only a good pitcher in Eovaldi, but one that's being rostered by 20% of the field. So I don't understand where this ownership is coming in from. Clearly you can always play Ronald Acuna or Matt Olson. Like it's a very good lineup, but 18% ownership coming into Acuna, 13 to Albies, 10 apiece to Olson and Michael Harris, who's pretty cheap, 8 to Rosario. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like I'm never one to like talk you off of playing the Braves, but why is the team with the expensive team with a 4-run implied run total getting all this ownership?
I have no idea. It's really weird, right? Like they're not even a good, if they were like, a much better value or something, it would make some sense, but they're 3rd from the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like we have Acuna projected for 18% ownership. He's showing up around 12% for me. Olson's showing like, as far as like what he should be rostered. Olson's showing up at about 6% for me. He's projected for 10%. I like I'm never upset when I look at my teams and I'm getting to the studs in this lineup, but
yeah,
I don't really know why this is the team that is projected to just pull ownership.
Yeah, I don't, it doesn't make a ton. Like normally I'm going to make some gimmick about like doing some homer nonsense and going, that's why everybody's going to, I don't get it. Other than them being like easy from positionally, outfield,
right.
1st, 2nd, 3rd is like a really nice start to the lineup. It doesn't make a ton of sense.
Right. Yeah. Like I was going to say, it's not that it's weird that they're getting ownership in the sense like, yeah, people are playing Ronald Acuna. No shit. Like that's every slate, but it's just weird that they're getting this much on this particular slate.
I got nothing else here for Rangers Braves. Rank them. I wonder where you're starting.
Strider, Eovaldi, Braves, Strider again. Not even ranking the Rangers.
Fair.
We now know
Astros
we now know what the key to winning a tournament tonight is.
Yes, we do. Astros and Cubs. Astros, massive favorites, biggest favorites on the slate. JP France and Drew Smiley pitching here. France getting about 20% ownership at 7,900. Smiley getting none at 7,600. How are you managing France here against a really nice strikeout matchup against the Cubs?
Yeah, I think France looks pretty solid at 7,900. Pretty good strikeout stuff for him. He's pulling 20% ownership, 18% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. $7,900 is a very reasonable price tag. He's showing up like 18% of the time for me, so I don't have any real problem with the ownership. He's just another guy that you're throwing into the Corbin Burns, Chris Bassett range guys, basically priced between Liberatore and solid strikeout stuff. He's a weird guy to like try and talk about, I guess, because he put up good strikeout numbers at AAA, but he's also a 28-year-old making his in his first major league season. He's made 2 major league starts. So typically those guys aren't actually good. But he has carried really good strikeout numbers throughout every level of the minor leagues. The bat projects a 22.5% strikeout percentage. Zips is at 24%. The bat is typically pretty bearish on guys that have not established themselves in the major leagues yet. So getting a 22.5% strikeout percentage there is relatively high. Yeah. So like, I don't know what to make of this guy. If he were 23 and had these minor league numbers, we'd be talking about him like this is a, up and coming stud. At 28, it's just like, what's wrong with this guy? I don't really know what the answer is.
I'm not entirely sure I know what the answer would be either. It's weird. It's really weird.
Yeah, because it's not even like when I realized he was 28 when he first came up, like I saw his recent strikeout numbers. Then I saw he was 28 and I was like, oh, I bet either he missed like several seasons or he's one of these guys that was just like a completely mediocre pitcher and then got access to like TrackMan data and turned into a really good pitcher. But like the strikeout stuff's been there forever. 2019 at high A, 100 innings, struck out 23%. At double A in 2021, 33 innings there, 80 at triple A in 2021. He struck out 35% at double A and 31% at triple A. Struck out 28% at triple A last year, 34% at the start of this year. Like he's carried these numbers for pretty much his career.
Let's talk with the Astros, I guess. They are number 1 in ownership, 5th in top stack, 6th in value, 6th in stack score. Is it just easier to go elsewhere, or do they still look good to you?
They still look good to me. They were actually showing up a little bit more for me, I think, in terms of, So like they're a team, Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez are actually showing up to me as the 2 best outfield plays. Not factoring in ownership, just like what you should be playing the most if ownership doesn't matter. Jeremy Pena showing up 2nd at shortstop, Bregman's 1st at 3rd base, Abreu's 4th at 1st base, Diaz is 2nd at catcher. So this is a team that's actually showing up a lot for me, and I think I'm a little bit higher on. But Smiley has been solid this year. He's not, a gas can in general, but so far this year, really good job limiting power. 112 expected ISO to lefties with a 29% strikeout percentage, 119 to righties with a 19% strikeout percentage. You go back to last year, the strikeout percentage against lefties gets a lot lower at 17.5%, but still a 132 expected ISO, 160 expected ISO to righties. I think it's more so just betting on talent here. For Houston, they do still have nearly a 4.8 implied run total. Alvarez and Tucker are both extremely good hitters. Bregman is only 4,200. That's another. This is another team, by the way. Going back to the Strider conversation, Alvarez is 5,700. Tucker's 5,100. Pena's 4,700. But other than that, Bregman at 4,200 is the most expensive guy. So you mentioned DraftKings getting a little bit tighter with their pitcher pricing. It doesn't matter if you make Spencer Strider 12K if you make every offense free.
Yeah, if Alex Bregman's 4,200, that's probably not the right one.
Right. Like if we're going to go with this pricing where Bregman's 4,200 and Adames is 4K, Strider needs to be like 14K.
Yeah.
If we're trying to like make this difficult.
Right. Any Cubs bats that you want to talk about here? Christopher Morel pulling a ton of ownership in that leadoff spot. The rest of these guys not pulling a lot.
Yeah, nothing that looks too good. Morel showing up around 12% of the time for me. That's the highest on the Cubs. The next highest is Wisdom at like 7%. Again, this is a pitcher in France that is a bit of a wild card. We don't really know what to make of him, but through his first 2 starts, 206 expected ISO to righties, nothing allowed to lefties so far. If you're going to the Cubs, I think it's just basically looking at it like, hey, we have no idea what the hell this guy is. And the Cubs are cheap again. Yeah, like every other team. But, you mentioned Morel, 4,100 leading off, second base outfield. I know he was showing up on Odd Shopper earlier, too, as being a really good bet for, I think, like over half of a total base. I don't know if that's still there, but if it is, it's showing up really good. But like this team is just cheap. Seiya Suzuki's 3,600. Wisdom is hitting 5th at 3,900. You have Matt Mervis hitting 6th at 2,300. This is a very highly regarded hitting prospect, has a ton of power. There's a ton of home run upside there. I don't love the spot. I don't love the implied run total, but they are somewhat interesting to me, just given that they're not getting that much ownership. And, this is JP France's 3rd major league start. And there is probably a reason that he is just now making it to the major leagues.
All right, we got a couple minutes yet, and then we got to turn this one over to PGA Live before lock. Let's try to get through this one quickly if we can. White Sox and Guardians. It's Mike Clevenger. It's Peyton Love is a Battenfield. I've got to do my best, Chris Berman on that one. Neither pitcher getting any ownership. Are you going to Clevenger or Battenfield?
Neither one. They're showing up like 10 and 9%. Clevenger 10, Battenfield 9 in terms of just how often I think they should be rostered, which once I start, narrowing down lineups typically means they're going to get pushed out because they're pretty low probability plays. So it's tough to really make a strong case for either one. They're going under-owned for whatever that's worth, but 5% ownership coming into Clevenger, 10% chance of being top two, 5% ownership to Battenfield at 6K, 6.5% chance of being top two. Not likely I get to much of either guy. They're cheap. That's other than, so I think Bayo, when you talk like sub, let's say 6,500 and below, I think Bayo is the first guy you go to, but he is getting 3 times the ownership of Clevenger and Battenfield. So like, if you think about it in that sense, where it's like, all right, I need a pitcher 6,500 or below, and I need to save some ownership. That's how you get to like a Clevenger or a Battenfield. And at that point, you just pray that they pitch better than normal, but certainly not looking to get to either guy.
White Sox, 4th in stack score, 9th in ownership. Guardians are 2nd in stack score, 3rd in ownership. Which team are you preferring in this one?
I think Cleveland looks a little bit better to me.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just, I think they're similar, but Cleveland looking a little bit better. You have a pitcher in Clevenger who used to be really good and so far this year hasn't been. Missing Jose Ramirez does suck for Cleveland, but another reasonably priced team. You have a nice lineup bump for Jimenez getting up to 3rd. Normally he hits like 6th. Will Brennan's hitting 5th at 2,100. He's got some power. Josh Bell at 2,800 is another good value. It does hurt not having Ramirez in this lineup. Like, it does make this lineup quite a bit uglier, but the top at least looks pretty good, I think. Ahmed Rosario showing up as slightly ahead of Jeremy Pena for me as the shortstop that should be the highest owned. Quan and Brennan both showing up like 7% of the time. Jimenez is showing up as the second baseman that should be the highest owned, just ahead of Christopher Morel. So I think it strikes me as a team I probably get to as like a 3-man. Okay. The White Sox are perfectly fine as well, though. Like, Battenfield, not a particularly good pitcher. 137 expected ISO to righties in a limited sample this year, 330 to lefties. I think you certainly can still play Tim Anderson, Luis Robert, Andrew Vaughn, but Benintendi, Moncada, Sheets, Grandal, all from the left side is going to look pretty good.
Sum it all up for this game. What do you want in order?
I'm actually going to reverse what I said before. So White Sox 1, Guardians 2. But still, like, those two, them 1, 2 in some order. Then I would say Clevenger 3 and Battenfield 4.
We got over 100 likes. We're up to 560 viewers. PGA Live before lock coming up next. We're leading right into those guys. And then NBA Live before lock coming up after them. Good luck, everybody. Thank you to Prize Picks for sponsoring the show. Adam and I will talk to you later. Good luck. Peace.
Yo, it's that time of the week again. Time to induct some of you fine people into the Stokastic Hall of Fame. Give out some free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $120 value, and all you got to do to get your name on the board, to get that free month, download the Stokastic profile picture at stokastic.com/avatar. It's easy. Tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and boom, got a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. More importantly, you get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Crowning achievement, a moment of a lifetime. And hopefully we'll see you here for it next week. But we got some great ones this week. Kicking it off with John-C 2000. Just want to thank the Stokastic team. He lists a bunch of names, not going to do all of that. But finished 3rd in the $20 NBA shoot-around. 1,000x my $20 buy-in for $20K. One lineup. Finally have money to buy some Super Chats. And Neil, where do you buy your flannel shirts? I need some. Congrats, man. Huge win there. Single bullet. Amazing stuff. LX Foley. Huge win last night using the lineup generator data. You guys know it. It's less than $4.50 for your first week. Baseball and basketball. Want to get in on that? Congrats, LX Foley. $15,000. Second place in the 300K Monday NBA clutch shot. 2 big wins out of the gate. Followed up by Ben Snappin'. Appreciate y'all, boys. Sorry for the y'all off it. Yeah, I'll never be comfortable with that word, but that's all right, man. You can say whatever you want. It's your day. I know you're going to be the one reading this in the morning. Holler at me. Yeah, 37.50 right there for Jet Life to the next life in NBA tiers. We got a lot of tiers questions lately. Been snapping, put up a big one. First place, almost $4,000. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, fella. And the 20K Thursday NBA pick and roll third place goes to JDJ 764, $750. Third place out of almost 11,000. Shout out to JDJ. Easy for me to say. And how about AG? You guys got some names here. AG1216, bunch of robots. Or GOM16. Go MH16. I don't know. Anyway, he took third place on 23,781 entries, won $250 on 50 cents. Looks like a whole lot more than that as well, man. First place in the pickoff, first place in the elbow shot, second place in chin music, third place in the mini max. Huge night, man. Congratulations. Crash Money back again. When $5 becomes $250, you got to thank the whole Stokastic crew and Steve Buzzard, the Colts, for the office hours help. Yep, that's right. You get these free months, you're getting into the office hours. Steve's in there helping you guys refine your game. Who better than Steve to help you out? Best crew in projections and DFS. I could get used to this winning thing. Josh Prop, very simple man, at Stokastic HOF, $175. Second place in the 5K mini max. And remember, it doesn't matter how much the entry fee is, whether it's $20, $5, or 5 cents. As long as it's top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, you're getting up here and you're getting the free month as well. Just like Josh, and just like, is it BLK, sir? Black Sir 89? Either way, shout out to the whole team. I'm always watching and using the tools at Stokastic.com and loving the results. Got a nice little ROI and the free month. I'll take it. Yeah, man, that's how it works. Like I said, third place in the wiffle ball, 150 max as well. And we'll round it out with Michael Thomas. Hit on my placeholder lineup. Always remember to keep that one in the game. But gosh darn it, leave more than a nickel and a quarter on it. How long until I can get that free month again, boys? I don't know. That's not for me to say. We'll have to go back and look. But congratulations, everyone. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. Welcome back if you've been here before. Remember, just rock that avatar wherever it is you play and tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF to get in on the action. And we'll see you back here for the next one.
All right, here we go. Major season. I'm glad a lot of you stuck around because PGA Live Before Lock is here, ready to go. Of course, NBA is following us. Just followed by, talked a little baseball with the boys, saw Ship My Money and Josh. But I'm here. Jeff Ulrich is here. Jordan Klein is still behind the glass. Oak Hill is here. And that means all things golf major. Jeff, you just said to me before we went live, let's talk through it. Let's see what we can do. And that is what we are here to do. We're going to build some lineups, break down this tournament and talk about what we need to do to make some serious money.
Yep.
It's going to be a doozy. How are you feeling? Let's just set the stage before we dive into things.
I mean, I'm a little all over the place. I'm excited for this tournament. I think it's going to be a good one. I think the course is setting up to be kind of like we saw last year, where it's going to be tough. Par is going to be a good score. There's going to be some opportunity for guys to make moves. And at the same time, you know, it's a major championship. We're getting a bunch of more news trickle in than we're used to. And it's creating chaos, I think. And I think that it's, you know, having my mind has changed a million times already on a few guys, and it may change more. So like you said, time to talk through it and see where we're at. But I think this is going to be a good event. Lots of names here who could just really, really break through. And, you know, when it's all said and done, we could also just get like another John Rahm romp. So lots of things to talk about, man.
There's no doubt about that. Let's start with a quick recap of Byron Nelson. I don't know how much we need to spend. Yeah. I couldn't think of a tournament and a course that would be less relevant to what we're dealing with here. The only thing of relevance for me, one was before the tournament. Spieth decided not to play to rest his wrist, and Jason Day won a tournament and kind of solidified that he has still got something left. Is there anything else? I don't even remember what else happened last week, and I think that's just fine.
No, that's about all you need to know. I mean, our boy Yager shot 14 under on the weekend, which I don't think is insignificant. And by the way, he gained like 4 strokes off the tee again, turning into a bomber. That's almost like more significant news than the rest of it. The Jason Day thing is a little bit heartbreaking for me, as I basically, the first thing I did last week was think, I should probably jump on Jason Day here. And then I didn't. And as the chat has pointed out, I decided to jump on Tom Kim instead. But, that's neither here nor there. But I do think it creates an interesting scenario for Day into this week. And when we get to Day, I'll talk more about it. But it is interesting that this is where the Jason Day breakout win happened, because I really do feel like if he had finished 5th, 4th, I think the world would almost be happier and more bullish on him. So lots of stuff to talk about with Jason Day. We'll get there, trust me. But otherwise, you're right. That event is it's ridiculous. And the course is so soft. Yager shot 14 under on the weekend, couldn't even crack the top 10.
Yeah.
Give me a break. Get it out of here. Bring on Oak Hill.
It was that now I remember, by the way, that's like shocked me back to reality. Yeah, I had a bunch of guys that almost did something good.
Yeah.
Yager, Adam Scott was up there for 5 minutes. I had not that anyone cares about this, I had a free bet for small dollars, and I actually had Marty do at like crazy numbers. And although he didn't really threaten, he kind of threatened.
I mean, he had a 2-shot lead with like 12 holes to go.
I was out for that point. I came back to watch him make a double, but
yes,
that's neither here nor there. Again, let's turn the page. Let's spend all our time on what we need to do here at Oak Hill, and let's spend our time on Rainmakers a little bit. They do sponsor the show. I say it every week. Number one thing, if they're offering the free starter pack, which they are, the link is below. Take advantage of that. Get inside the ropes and see what it's about. You can claim that. See your cards. You see the lobby. There is so much money up for grabs with Rainmakers right now. It's a format and a concept that's not going away. So if you want to get involved, step one, again, get your free DraftKings Rainmakers pack. Obviously, we have content on this very channel supporting you. Got that program. Eric Lindquist, Greg Ehrenberg, all those guys do a great job there. Can't say enough about it. Claim that link. Link is below for the Rainmakers pack. But no matter what format you're building, from Rainmakers to regular, to tiers, to betting, you need to know about Oak Hill. Tokyo Swan's in chat, by the way. He's the guy who got me on Marty Do. But you need to know about Oak Hill. I was complaining before the show. They are talking like this is going to be a U.S. Open. Yeah. Do you believe that? Because I think that really does determine how we build this week.
I mean, I think it's going to play tough, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be like a U.S. Open in the sense that we need to cross out like all the players who don't hit it like 315, and like 10 players realistically have a real shot at winning it. Because sometimes we get U.S. Opens like that where we get players who play well and out of their minds, but realistically, like it's Brooks Koepka versus Dustin Johnson and like a couple other guys, and that's really it, because there's only a few people who can hit it that far and that consistently. I don't think it's going to be that tough from that perspective. I do think it's going to be tough, though. I think last year is probably a good comparison. I think Brookline, what we saw at the U.S. Open last year, is actually a good comparison. Thick rough, a little bit more technical track, but not necessarily what you call just like bomb it out there and you have to, and just bomb it out there as far as possible and pray. I don't think it's going to be that crazy. I think that there's still room off the fairway. And, the guys with the high ball flight and good approach stats, I think that's going to shine through more than anything. So a little bit of more of a U.S. Open style, but I don't think it's going to be like, again, like as tough as people are saying. I think last year's probably a good comparison. I think Brookline, both winners there under par. I think we'll see that again.
I'm gonna try as hard as I can to stick to my guns. That I'm not gonna say it's gonna play easy because that's just stupid, but I think you can score here. I don't think that it's going to be so incredibly difficult that no one is gonna crack par, and there are whispers of things like that. From what everyone's saying, it's the classic, like, you need to drive it super long, but you have to be accurate. You better hit your irons. If you're short-sighted, you better have the best around the green game in the world. And making some putts helps, which sounds like an all-around test of golf. and I don't know what you draw from that. I guess my big if is we saw when Bryson was at the height of his powers, say at Winged Foot and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to overpower the course. And yeah, maybe I'm in the rough, but I'm going to be really close. Do you think that that's a viable path here?
See, I think that and just as, again, this is just my opinion. I think it's less of a viable path than it has been in years past. Like, then it was, let's say, Winged Foot. I don't think Winged Foot, like, I think Winged Foot is semi-comparable, but I don't think it's going to be like the comparable. I don't think it's really the comp. I actually think Brookline is a better comp. Brookline was more of just a little bit more of a technical track where, yeah, it's long, but again, like hitting the fairways means something, and just being, a little bit more consistent instead of just bombing it means something. So I would say no. It doesn't mean that somebody can't come out and do that. I mean, if Bryson or Dustin Johnson comes out and hits like every fairway this week, yeah, I mean, like they're going to win because they hit it longer than anyone. But I don't know if just taking that approach is like the only way you can go about it this week. So I would say, again, like, I don't think you're going to get someone like that winning where, they can just bomb and gouge it and kind of just take out the field, but we'll see. If anyone's going to do it, it's probably Rahm. Maybe Dustin, but I think with the way everyone's at now, we're going to get like some kind of closer affair come Sunday. So kind of what we had last year, the PGA.
Yeah. Again, I really tend to agree. Before we're about to build some lineups. Last thing I do want to say, we had a question about for Showdown weather splits. It's going to be freezing. I don't think they can start on time. So I'm not sure that the guys who go out early tomorrow are in that bad of a situation. If they have to play on time, they're in a horrible situation. And I would actually look towards afternoon guys or guys in the later part of the first wave. But other than that, I don't see any weather split I'm too concerned about.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you there on the weather. I think you could get like, I guess the only thing I'm a little concerned about is if the gusts on the second day, just get worse in the afternoon. But right now, like, it's kind of just looking like the whole day is going to be a lot of the same. So
yeah,
if anything, you may even just get afternoon winds dying down. So I don't really want to guess and choose there. And I agree. I don't think they're going to start on time. I would be expecting like an hour delay tomorrow. I'd be kind of surprised if they didn't. So, the morning wave may even just have a little bit of an advantage there because they start a little bit earlier and they don't have any afternoon wind coming in. But it's you can still create wave like stacking lineups. You can do that. It's just not sure how much of an advantage there is, and I really can't tell you with any degree of certainty which wave is going to be better. If I had to guess, I would still lean Thursday PM, Friday AM, but that is just a guess, and it's not a super confident one.
Yep, I agree. If you're making enough teams, stack them up, go ahead. But I don't think you really need to do that. And it actually leads us in perfectly. Let's have some fun. Let's get after it. We've talked, we set the stage. Let's just right off the bat build some lineups with the lineup generator. You guys have been playing NBA, baseball, all these things. You know about the lineup generator. It's for PGA, and it is sick. It is, I think, the best sport for a tool like this, to be honest. My man Jordan Klein is going to run through it, of course. Go a little DraftKings main. See what we're going to do here. Go a little balanced today. I think balance is good. And honestly, for a major, I don't think we should lock anyone. Let's just skip it and see what we get. Start building out some lineups. And you're going to see if you guys have the other generators, you know what you get. You know about the ability to substitute the 1v1s, to see your exposures and everything else that's going on. And of course, since it's a major, we've got some deals going on here. 50% off PGA lineup generator, which means you can get this for this tournament for under $5. You're talking about a couple bucks, a cup of coffee. If you're making teams, or you're saying, I don't play golf and I want to make a couple teams, an extra $4, I think is more than well worth it. We obviously will be sticking around these tools for every sport. I can't say enough. I've been building lineups with the lineup generator. It's a ton of fun, if nothing else, but it's also, again, a great way to build because you can see those exposures. You can see what else we've got going on. And I know, Geoff, you've talked about that, just the ability to kind of conceptually visualize, okay, I'm here, I'm there, I want to substitute this guy or this guy, makes all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Just having your exposure up there is helpful for someone like me. You can't remember what I did like 2 minutes ago.
I don't know what I'm doing.
So that alone pays for itself. But in the major championship weeks too, because we have such a deep field. Like I love going, like I really like the balanced builds this week. I think you're going to see a balanced build win most of the money, and just being able to have that. And again, visualize what it is. You just click balanced, pops up a couple. If you don't like them, you can mess around with the player pool, and you can go from there. It's going to save you time, and it's going to give you, what it's going to do is it gives you more options quicker. Like you can hand build, but you're going to miss stuff. Like, trust me, you miss stuff. So
I hand build. I would know.
This helps you. It really does. You can't go as fast as the computer does. So yeah, it's a great week, man. You're trying for 1 week. Now's the time. Good time to get on a month. The US Open is coming up, guys. So anyways.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Again, Jordan just threw the link in chat. Try it out. You know, a worst case scenario, you say that wasn't for me and I'm down about $5, and totally reasonable. We hope that you like it. And I really believe in these tools, but let's figure out who we hope to see in those generated lineups. Jon Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, Rory, fascinating. We could spend the whole show on just Roars if we wanted to. Morikawa and Brooks, they're the 10K plus options. I think it goes without saying that if Rahm or Scheffler in particular get it going, they're going to be tough to stop. That's how good they are. But when you look to build, how do you approach the best of the best?
Yeah, no. So, I mean, really interesting stuff coming in this week in terms of, just with Rory McIlroy, 10-7. I'm just trying to find him right now in the odds, or not in the odds, excuse me, in our ownership projections. And like,
not going to be popular so far.
No, he's not going to be popular. He's definitely going to be the least popular of the three. So, Rory has finished top 10 in the 9 of the last 15 majors. If we don't get like a Jon Rahm win, if we don't get a Scotty Scheffler win, Rory may well just factor in. I mean, that is just what he does. He often does factor himself in for DFS in these major championships because he's so good at just putting up low rounds on the weekend. And sometimes he gives himself a chance to win, and more often than not, he comes up short. I mean, he's come up short for a decade now, but he factors in, and he's a really good scorer. So I look at the ownership. He's about a quarter projecting on our site for what a quarter of Scotty Scheffler is, and I'm okay with that. Like I'd be okay getting some exposure and maybe even being over the field on Rory. Rahm to me is the guy I would rather pay up for between him and Scheffler. Would much rather be over on Rahm than Scheffler, but I'll be dead honest. Like I like going the balanced approach this week. I mean, there's just too many players here where I think a breakthrough is likely, where I think you're going to see someone from the pack to bust in. And if you catch the right one, if you double your chances by say going, Brooks and Finau or Hovland and Cantlay, your chances are heightened to hitting it. And if you do, those lineups are going to be really superior. So certainly side with Rahm of the three, but I think Rory has a lot of appeal this week. I really do. When people are this off on a player, you have to have some interest.
I mean, I have no credibility left with Rory, but the thing that's beautiful about this, you can get healthy leverage and have outs if Rory simply doesn't have it, because he's not playing well at all. That's clear. Now, if you say I'm not worried about his recent form, everything else is still stellar. This is a great course for him. No one drives the ball like Rory. He's got Oak Hill connections from personal life to having played here. He's got experience. All of that stuff is great. He just normally has that at Quail Hollow, and he did not. He did not look good at all, and that is concerning. But I'm fine with Rory. I think Rahm is the best player in the world, so I'm comfortable with that. The guy that I'm most confused about is Morikawa. He's not going to be popular. He's kind of getting squeezed for me, and it's just a simple fact. His short game is so bad that he takes himself out of tournaments. Do you worry about that here?
Yeah, Morikawa is super interesting. I mean, I think there's actually an argument that like Morikawa is even a better target than McIlroy. I mean, what we've seen from him from the last year is just that like it's going to be hit or miss. If he's okay around the greens and like okay putting, I mean, he will contend. Like the ball striking is just there for him almost all the time. And again, like last year we saw in the majors, he popped up. Even at the Masters, like, when he's been up and down with the short game, but, when you're thinking about, a tougher technical track where you got to hit fairways and like, you've got to hit small targets or you're going to like, be in the rough. I mean, that's Colin Morikawa. So man, like it is both Rory and Morikawa have some pretty interesting tournament upside to me. I side with Rory just because Rory's major championship record is so insane. And, again, even if he's not in the tournament, like he's probably going to get himself in a position of a top 10 when it's all said and done, if he makes the cut. So, but you could certainly make a case for both. I know I made some lineups with Morikawa. I really like it because you can still get exposure to those guys in the high K range and the low 9Ks who I think have a really good shot of winning. So interesting. Both those players, they could be really pivotal, this week.
Before we move to the second half of the top tier, the 9K range, I always like to ask you this. Do you envision having lineups that contain 2 north of 10?
This week, probably
it's a tough build if you do. Let me say that.
Yeah, I would say this week is. I think I made one with it. No, I actually was with Xander, so it's not 2 guys with it's over 10. No, I don't. Again, like I like Brooks Koepka. We'll get to him in a sec. But I don't know if I'd necessarily want to pay up for 2. And like if you're paying up for Rahm and Scheffler, to me, I don't know if I necessarily want to take the second bullet and like just chance it on a guy like Morikawa who's been so up or down. And then Rory is $400 more expensive. So then you're just really just pressing it even more. I would say no. It's pretty hard no.
As we work down again, feel free to talk about Brooks. Then the ownership comes in. Xander, just to give you guys a sneak peek at one of the many features, our ownership. Xander's going to be really, really popular. No surprise there. Cantlay's joining him. Spieth says he's good to go. Tony Finau, my man, what do you make of them versus Brooks? You can go balanced and start with these guys. I assume that's a build you're entertaining.
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, I think, again, if you're going to go contrarian with like a Morikawa, Rory thing, the nice thing is it's going to give you lesser ownership off your next selection, which, probably should be like a Cantlay or Schauffele, who are both projecting extremely well. Cantlay is right up there on Stokastic this week, one of the top plays. We've seen the ownership projections kind of seesaw on both Xander and Cantlay, but it's for good reason. I mean, these guys have been consistent all year. They're both the best player never to win a major, in the field, really. And, they're under 10K, so they're going to be popular. I don't have a problem necessarily eating the chalk with them, but excuse me. Brooks is the interesting one. I mean, this is a completely different scenario with Koepka. Like, I think that a lot of people are probably expecting to come in and be like, yeah, like Brooks Koepka, definitely going to roster him at the second major, but then you see the 10-1 salary and it's like, oh, I can't pay 10-1 for Brooks Koepka. How can we pay 10-1? I mean, he's a live player, but this is the PGA Championship. He's won 2 of these. These courses are set up for Brooks Koepka. I mean, he's basically proven that over his career. I think he's fine as a starting point. I really do. You're getting a more consistent player, a guy who's basically finished top 10 in each of his last 4 starts. The Koepka since the Masters has been great. I mean, he's been all over the live leaderboards. You can think that tour about, whatever you think about that tour or whatever, but it's still competitive golf. He's gone out there 3 times and shown that he's still got it. I think it's fine to believe in Brooks Koepka. And I think this is the kind of major where you should be believing in him. So I really like the ownership on him. I do. He's not my pick to win or anything, but like as far as starting lineups go, I prefer to start with him than I do Scheffler. Like I really do. You're getting way lower ownership and you're getting a player with what you call like just PGA Championship pedigree. So
I hear you. Again, it's an interesting tag. I actually was looking to play a very dangerous game. I wanted Brooks to be like 9,000 and 35% own, and I probably would fade him because I do think in general.
That's what I was expecting.
Same. Yeah. And that's not the case.
It's a way different dynamic with him at 10,100.
I think that most people are going to look at the live guys basically as what did they do at Augusta? If it was good, they're still good. If it was bad, they're bad. And I think that's a little short-sighted. And obviously Brooks, he looked pretty damn good. So that's going to be an interesting wrinkle. But these other guys, I mean, I think Finau makes a whole lot of sense. You could be seeing him in a tweet of mine later today in the winner's circle. You've got Justin Thomas there. Talk to me. Go ahead.
I know. I mean, Finau's really interesting. I almost feel like it's the complete opposite of what we're getting at the Masters, where everyone, including myself, was just talking up Tony Finau the whole week. And he was one of the most owned players. And now it's like the people getting discussed here are Schauffele and Cantlay. And it's like I haven't heard a peep about Tony Finau. I haven't seen a tweet about him. I haven't seen anyone cover him. And I like it. I'm glad. I mean, I got some futures on him, but certainly for a build here, I mean, if you just want to get off, or if you're just looking for a pivot away from Cantlay or Schauffele in a lineup, I think just going down to Finau, I think you're going to be a little bit surprised in the ownership on him. That's my guess. He's still going to have ownership for sure. He's projected as a top 5 play for us in terms of ownership, but I really think he could come under our projection if I had to guess. So I like it. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I mean, like Tony Finau, tougher golf course. Certainly going to be able to handle the rough here. If he can just keep it semi in there and the putter shows up, it could be lights out here.
Bent, like preferred surface. He's playing out of his mind. I feel very good about it. Now, again, his quality of win. This is the next hurdle. First was win. He's done that a lot. Next is win those next level events. He has not done that just yet, but he outdueled Rahm in Mexico. I know it was in Mexico, but that was no joke. And I think that he has everything that you could want. 2 guys I want to bring up before we move to the mid-range. Jordan Spieth says he's going to try to play. Now, everyone's going to be freaked out because of the wrist. Worthwhile play, I think in the millie for me, I'm fine with it. I don't know how you go there in single entry. What do you think about Spieth? He's not going to be popular.
I mean, I just can't get there. If he was cheaper, absolutely. But we're talking about burning a spot with like Finau, Schauffele, even Justin Thomas, who I don't love necessarily, but is there. Again, if he was cheaper, sure, but he's not. I can't do it, man. Maybe it's the wrist tape that's freaking me out, but you're talking about a technical track. Jordan Spieth isn't the most accurate driver. He's really improved in that. He has, but getting that rough a little too much, I can't do it. I think you just forget about him.
What about Cam Smith? Bad driver of the ball.
Right. Yeah.
Like
he's
wizard though.
Man. I mean, this guy looks thirsty to prove something to me. It's a little scary. I don't love him in this track though. I'd want somewhere. The fairways here aren't terribly skinny, but the penalties here are not good. So I would say, love Cam Smith, really like him. But I just don't think this is the spot. I certainly wouldn't. He's almost like Roy. Like I certainly wouldn't have a problem mixing him in. He's just not really my pick. I certainly prefer him over Cam Young. I'll say that. And I do prefer him over Justin Thomas. So I guess when we're talking about this range, I actually kind of like him, but I just don't love this range as a whole. Like I kind of like those getting as much exposure to the top part of the 9Ks and then dipping down, because I think the high 8K has almost better players there, if we're being dead honest, than the lower 9Ks. So outside of Smith, who's awesome, but Smith would be my play here. He's just not like at the top of my list or anything.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's move to these are arbitrary things. We're going mid-range, which is like very basically, starting with guys like Victor Hovland and Cam Young, those mega drivers who really can't chip or putt. You've got Sanjay, who's the opposite. He's the most well-rounded player, I think, out there of not the elite, but he did play in Korea last week, which is kind of weird. Yes. And then you talk about the 8K range that you like so much with Day and DJ and these types. So what do you make of first? I think Young and Hovland obviously are paired together logically, and then Sanjay, who's very interesting for me.
Yeah, I mean Cameron Young, I just feel like we're seeing a little bit of regression with him, which is completely fine. He was so hot last year; it seemed like he could do no wrong. But I just think he's a player who does have a little bit of faults, and we're kind of seeing that right now. I think he's just overpriced. I really do. I don't really have that much interest in the players coming off a couple bad results. I know he's good at the Masters, but that's just a spot where you can drive it kind of wherever you want. It's kind of turned into more of a power player's spot, especially with the weather. Maybe the weather makes that this week too, but Hovland I have more interest in. I mean, again, I've had interest in him in kind of most of the season. He's just cooled off a bit, and if the putter's not rolling, the short game's not going to save him. I don't know. I'm not into either of these players this week, if I'm being dead honest. I am into Sungjae. Sungjae's just going to be chalky, which is fine. Just realize that I think a lot of players will be getting on him. He's only 9K. This day news that we're going to talk about right now, I think is also going to drive people to switch over to Sungjae. So I look at Sungjae. I'd probably prefer him on a little bit of an easier setup. But like you said, this course may not play as hard as we think. So straight driver of the golf ball, just solid all-around game. He could definitely just grind his way down into a top 5 or something. And I think the price is fine. So I really don't hate Sungjae. I'm kind of I'm definitely out on Young and kind of out on Hovland too.
We see pretty similar. I might get a little exposure to them, particularly together, because say it's just bombers rule the day. There's no doubt their off the tee games are fantastic, but I just don't think they have the complete games, and it probably going to get into trouble. They're the type of players, Hovland in particular. I think he's going to have some real good stretches and also some like catastrophic mistakes. And I think this course can do that. I've heard a couple other people say that, and I totally agree. So I'm with you there. I think Sungjae makes for a really solid play in honestly any type of format, single entry, 3 max cash. I like him quite a bit, but talk to me about Day and DJ and Homa, Decky. These are the top of the 8K range.
Yeah. So, okay. I mean, if you haven't been on Twitter today, Jason Day basically came out in his press conference, said he hasn't practiced at all. He hasn't played the course. He's just feeling a little bit tired after his win. And I think he said something about allergies today too. This is what was relayed to me. He's basically thrown some chaos into all this. So like you can take that what you will. And you should listen to it. And I do think that what Day doing by coming out and saying this is it's made him a bit more of a volatile play. I love Day's upside at this course. If he was just coming in rested, we hadn't got any weird press conference thing from him, I'd be telling you right now, slam Jason Day. He's got a high ball flight. He's won in this part of the world before. He was second at Baltusrol in New Jersey in 2016. I think it's a great track. I really do. He's got the around the green game. He's not going to blow up there. The putter has upside left. His swing is way more consistent. Everyone's going to give you the bearish news on Jason Day. It's risky. He's gonna withdraw. He's not prepared. Here's the bullish case, Ben. Dude is not practicing. He's not. If there's anybody not overthinking this course right now, it's Jason Day. Everyone's talking about how tough it is. They've got it in their mind. Oh my God, it's an impossible course. Jason Day hasn't seen it yet. He's gonna wake up tomorrow, be more rested than the field. He's gonna go out there and just be like, "Hey, let's see what we can do." I kind of like it, but. Again, I'm not going to try and sell you on it that hard. There's risk. I think there's volatility here. The guy below him, Dustin Johnson, I think has just similar upside, and I think his floor is a little bit better. So I do really like Day for this setup. I really do. Like I said, I think he's got every chance here to really go well. But we gotta take the news that's given to us. I think he's a little bit riskier now. Certainly, if you're looking for a bit more safety, I would just go down to Johnson, maybe even Hatton, but. I really like Jason Day at this course, man. I think it's a good setup for him. So we will see. It's going to be very interesting to see. I will not be shocked in any scenario. But just, if you're setting him or if you got your exposure, be aware of what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. He's going to be about the same ownership looking at with Sungjae, similar in the same ballpark as DJ. I'll probably get to some. I think I do prefer Dustin Johnson just because of his abilities off the tee. But they looked fantastic last week. There's no doubting that. As we work down, we also got a super chat, friend of the show. Michael, appreciate that. Thinking of you, my man. But, as we work down, this is the thing about majors. There are so many guys. These guys that I'm about to mention in weak fields are 11,000. Yeah. They're the top names. Max Homa, Hideki, Hatton, Fitzy. You talk about Brookline, Shane Lowry. Yeah. I mean, this is the appeal of the balance build. They could be your third or fourth man in.
I love a lot of these guys too. How about Hideki coming in? Gained 5 strokes on approach last week. He's got some really good results on courses like this too. I think it's a good setup for Hideki. No one's going to play him. I like it. He got the treatment. He looked great last week. It's a little bit, my only worry at the deck, he's a little bit wonky off the tee, but he got that out of his system. I think he's a great play at 8,600. Like him for DFS. And then Homa. Again, a guy with a high ball flight. Riviera is a great comp. TPC Potomac, where he won in 2022, is another really tough par 70. You got to hit your spots. I think Max Homa has a real chance this week. And, if we're just looking at the betting odds right now, too, this is a player you can get out there. I saw it like plus 4,000, plus 4,500 in spots yesterday. I think the people have kind of overlooked Homa a little bit here. Everyone loved him in February. Everyone was saying, go bet him at the US Open and PGA. Well, now we're here and no one's talking about him. Love it. Like you said, you can just build this range. You really can. I think a lot of these guys, and Fitzpatrick, I don't know what he's doing down here. I don't even know. He should be
love Fitzy.
I don't even know what he's doing. What is he doing down here?
You got me.
Fitzpatrick is worse than Cameron Young? No.
You tell him. Tell the people.
What the hell is going on?
Guy's got a major. You want to talk about combination of he drives it straight? He drives it, he added distance. He doesn't care. He's got bent grass. He's going to be fine. Now, if he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it. But man, do I like Fitzy here.
Just to give you guys, we're giving out the Stokastic ownership projections, which you should absolutely go subscribe to after this video.
It is
Fitzpatrick's not even the top 10 owned players.
No.
What are we doing here? Slam him in.
I love it. I really do. All right, let's close this range because we do have NBA behind us. Bottom of the range, Shane Lowry, Burns, Mr. Lindquist's boy, Thigala, my man Tommy Fleetwood, and Tom Kim, who, if he plays well here, I don't know what's real and what's not. I know he never wins, but Tommy Fleetwood, we got to just keep playing him, right?
Oh, not getting off now.
Come on now. Playing great across the board. He gained strokes everywhere. Sign me up for Tommy Fleetwood.
I'm really going to try and rein in the Fleetwood thing here, but man, he looked good at Wells Fargo. I know it didn't happen there, but first round leader. Apparently shot 62, like Sleepy Hollow, another New York course a couple days ago.
Sleepy Hollow. It's right down the street from me.
Not going to build it up too much. I'm just going to say all things point to yes. I like it. I like Tommy Fleetwood. Yes, definitely would be a good week if Tommy Fleetwood won for me. Not going to talk me out of that. Thigala and Burns, absolute wild cards. You put them in, you could get a top 5. You could get a guy who's top 5 in DFS scoring, or you could get an 80. I'd have a little bit more interest in Burns. I think he's got just a little bit more experience with courses like this, but both guys are absolute wild cards. Tom Kim can get out of here after last week.
At least he made the cut, but that's about all he did.
He made the cut. Good for him. No, look, Tom Kim, I don't know. I think he's just play Fleetwood. He's got the major championship record. I think he's a better shot for top 10. Kim could definitely make the cut again and kind of pull a bit of a mini Rory or something. But Lowry is interesting. I think a lot of people will just kind of overlook him. Certainly as a player who's got the major championship pedigree as well. Didn't look good at Wells Fargo, but you're talking about low-owned players in this range. He certainly will be it. So, again, I'm not getting off Tommy Fleetwood here. We'll see after this event how it goes, but I think Tommy's playing really, really well right now. I buy into it. I really do. I think there's every chance. I really think that if you're looking for a player bigger than 50-1 to win, that is probably the one name. That's the name I would give. I think there's a couple of other guys we're going to mention in a sec, but that would be my name.
I hear you. Fitzy and Fleetwood are my priorities in the lower 8s. Let's talk about the upper 7s. I'll just get right to it, and then I'll pass it to you. I think Neiman is a really good bet. I still have some exposure in DFS, but I like him more in the betting market. Keegan is playing really well. Say what you want, but Ricky Fowler also sets up very well. Those are probably the guys I'm most interested in the kind of bottom of the mid-range.
I definitely don't mind Keegan. Again, we talked about the TPC Potomac connection. He's played well there a couple times. So is Ricky, by the way. I love Joaquin Neiman this week. Did you mention Neiman? I don't know if.
I bet him. He was upwards of 100-1 at points this week.
Love Neiman. You're getting the live discount too here. I think people just don't even know what Neiman's been up to. He just had a career best at the Masters, career best major finish.
16th.
By the way, Neiman is 24. He has made the cut in every single major over the past 3 years. He's made the cut in 9 straight majors. For a 24-year-old, Ben, that's like, I don't know if it's not a record, but like, because Tiger Woods exists, but that's really impressive, you know? Like, he's a good player, man. And he is, again, coming in, people just aren't really playing him. He's 8% owned in our projections. I really like Neiman, especially for big fields. Ricky is fine. You have to eat a little chalk about him, but like, all he does is play well. He's playing really good golf, and the putter finally woke up at Wells Fargo. Could Ricky do this, Ben? I mean, if we like Fleetwood, you kind of got to like Ricky too. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it'll be a little bit too long, too cold for Ricky, but I certainly don't dislike him. So I think Keegan is interesting, but like, again, if you want just a nice tournament play, who's not going to be heavily owned, to me, just play Neiman. Really like him.
Yeah, I hear you. I like him a lot as well. I like Ricky. This is a range you're going to have a lot more options because it opens up. What do you make of Patrick Reed? That's the one I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, it could happen. I don't love it, but again, like we're talking about Reed and Fowler. I mean, you know, Reed's major championship record kind of speaks for itself, so you have to give him some credence here. Fowler is definitely gaining steam. So I think for me, like, it would come down to, if I'm picking between those two, what's the rest of my build looking like? If I've already got Schauffele in there, if I've already got Wyndham Hatton in there, a couple popular guys, I would probably look to pivot down to a Patrick Reed, who's probably going to be about half the ownership. But other than that, I slightly side with Ricky. Reed's game has always been volatile, and now he's playing on a different tour. I really don't know what he's been up to in terms of stats and stuff. Worries me a little bit with him. So side with Ricky, but certainly Reed. I would prefer to pivot to Reed than Justin Rose. Let's put it that way.
I would as well. Just because Reed has that Cam Smith, like, kind of magician, can work in and out of trouble at these courses. And it leads us in to CJ Super Chat, his first Super Chat. We appreciate that. Very generous. Just quick takes on higher end players who don't do well on harder tracks and lower owned players who kind of do. So I think that, it speaks to the birdie fest versus harder tracks kind of narrative. To me, I mean, when you look up top, it's a little trickier because those guys are so good. They can thrive everywhere. But I think the guys that really struggle the most would be Cam Young and Hovland. I think they're more built to really destroy courses than grind it out. Whereas Brooks and guys like that have shown the ability. And as you work down, I mean, we're going to get to them right now. I think a guy like Gary Woodland has shown he can handle a really tough track. Obviously, Fitzy and Shane Lowry, guys that aren't reliant on the putter as much at times, because getting up and down for par is the name of the game at Oak Hill. You don't need to roll in your 15-footers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the Hovland and Cam Young take, which is, I mean, I probably went too long-winded about it, but that's basically their profile. Just, to me, I don't love. I think Cameron Young was performing well on some of these harder courses last year, but I think it's a bit more of a, what you call like a one-off kind of thing. Certainly his around the green game could improve, but yeah. And as far as low-owned guys, definitely, just emphasizing those tee to green stats. I mean, a guy like Henley does pretty well on tough courses too. I mean, anyone who can hit his approaches that well, he's going to hit a ton of fairways. And I definitely agree with you about Woodland. So you want consistency off the tee. Doesn't have to be a bomber, but a guy who's not going to get in a ton of trouble. Certainly Henley is that guy. Grillo is kind of that guy too. We've seen him perform better on easier courses of late, but Grillo's actually got a pretty good record in the PGA. So I don't hate him either.
Yeah, I get it. I think with guys like Grillo and them, you have to work backwards. Like you have to say, okay, greens in regulation, you can hit them at an absurd clip. It's possible, because if he doesn't, there's no chance. He has no chance to get up and down at a clip like that. Taylor Montgomery, can he survive off the tee and with his irons? If you don't think that you can do that, you have him and Harris English. Harris English is, you want to take Wingfoot splits, he was there. If you want to take Wells Fargo splits, he was there. Now he's garbage off the tee, but he's shown he can do it a different style. I think that's a pretty dangerous game, but it is possible.
It is. And, Bez is kind of the same. Like, he can pop up on these tough courses. He's done really well on some tough courses. He won at Valderrama, which is like some people just call it the hardest course in the world, but it's all putter and around the green base. He sucks off the tee. He was terrible off the tee even at Byron last week. That's why he couldn't crack the top 10. But like if the putter gets going and he's just like half decent off the tee, like Harris English, he could pop up here. He really could. So English and Bez, way more volatile plays down here. I look at Woodland and Henley as the guys you should just be kind of leaning on. But if you want to mix in some players with top 10 upside, Harris and Bez would be the guys I'd be looking to.
As we work down to the salary savers, kind of those lower owned guys, I will say again, if you want these tools that are being updated, the ownership, the projections, top golfers, everything inside the ropes, we've got packages 50% off any Stokastic premium subscription. So maybe you come in for the month, it'll take you all the way through and you get all the sports. It's totally up to you. We've got those links in the description right by the lineup generator. Can't say enough about what the team does behind the scenes. But if you do go aggressive up top, you're gonna need some of these dudes in the low sevens and the high sixes. What do you think about it? I mean, I think Woodland makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Siwoo is down there. Like Thunder Bear, Bobby Mack. I mean, there's a lot of Euros. Who else piques your interest? Maybe Bez?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, again, it's just kind of like how wild do you want to get? How confident do you feel about the rest of your lineup that you can throw maybe like a little bit of variance into it with Bez? How long do you think the course is going to play? Do you think Bez can survive it? But I do kind of like him. I mean, his iron play and his putting have been really solid. I mean, if he can just not be a semi-disaster off the tee or just be semi-decent, I mean, I think he can do something here. Really like him as a player. So I don't really have a problem with him. Again, we're talking GPP upside. Sure. I think my preference here is just to put Gary Woodland in. I mean, Gary Woodland right now is like the kind of cheaper version of Will Zalatoris. He's just hitting it. He's hitting it a ton and he's hitting a ton of greens, and it's going to keep you out of trouble on a course like Oak Hill. He's got major championship stats, and that tends to shine through on major championship courses. So guessing when the putter is going to show up is kind of just a fool's errand. I mean, it shows up when it shows up. It's just the style of course we're getting here for 7,100. You just need Gary Woodland to give you a chance, and he will do that with his long game. So I really prefer him. I think Mito is interesting at 7K too. He's just a really complete, solid player. He didn't look great last week. I think I texted you about him or something. I did bet him. That was a waste.
Yeah, you told me. You said, I think, lock at Tulsa, and I put
Did I say lock? Yes. Lock. That's probably the word I said.
He was all right.
He was like T30, but he was actually okay before that in the last couple of events. So I'm not too worried about one result, but certainly just a strong tee to green player as well. So Woodland, Mito, Bez and Harris for a little bit of variance. Keith Mitchell, the off the tee game. I'm okay with that. I really am. Probably don't play Davis Riley this week. Phil, Kirk is semi-interesting, but there's a lot of names here. I'm not overly hyped about.
It's a spray and pray range. There's obviously not going to be like massive chalk in these ranges. It's pick your poison. Yeah. Kuchar is going to be a little popular. Some people are going to gravitate towards KH Lee. I want to ask you about Brendan Steele and HV3. Yeah. Those are two live guys that drive it really well. HV3's been playing good golf. I don't know if Steele can survive with the short game, but I'll tell you, his off the tee game is better than almost everyone down in the 6K range.
So now that we're into the 6K range, I mean, there are some, again, this is great because I feel like we do have, I wouldn't say we have like huge mistakes down here, but there's definitely players down here who are pretty good. And I think like you could realistically make a case that they could almost be 7K this week. So I do like, you can dip down here. I think you can almost dip down there twice if you want. I'm with you on Steele. I'm absolutely fine playing Brendan Steele. The around the green game could absolutely bite him, but it could bite a lot of people here. And Steele is going to be very consistent off the tee. If his putter he's just average with the putter, he's going to make the weekend. And this has kind of been his event. He, for in terms of majors, like he was in contention the year Keegan won. I think his career best major might even been last year when he's like T9 or something, but certainly this has been a good major for him. And he's been playing well in live. He's been up there. He hasn't quite got it done because he's Brendan Steele. He's just not as good at certain parts of the game, but he's good at driving the ball, and that's going to be a big benefit this week. And look, Ben, Yager is 6,700.
I was gonna next words out of my mouth. So we stick with our guy here.
I don't know where Steven Yager found 20 yards, but he's found 20 yards and he's smashing the ball off the tee. And it's not just at Byron last week. It was at Wells Fargo too. A much tougher golf course. I'm a believer in this. The putter woke up last week too. He looks really confident right now. And I'm being dead serious about this. I think he's a very good play. So, again, like I look at this track. I don't think it's going to play too long for him. Just the way he's driving it right now, I'm not even sure if it matters the length of the course. Certainly hasn't around the green game. It's been a little bit up and down this year, but it's still there. The putter was good. The approaches have been off the charts at times. I think he's a really good play down here. I really do. He's going to be a 1%er. You don't need to mix in too much. And first round leader too. I'll throw that out there. Why not?
Yeah, he's a decent showdown play because I could see him being up there and then
led the field in birdies last week. Led the field in birdies.
Listen, you don't need to convince me, but I got to ask you about one more. We're gonna build our lineups before we get out of here, and of course, NBA Live Before Lock coming up next. I have seen a lot of sharp people, including people in our chat right now. Colin Mahone just mentioned him. Yannick Paul, who to me sounds like a tennis player, but it's not. He's a golfer. It's tough with guys like this because we don't get to see them week in and week out on the PGA Tour, but we know they've got some game. Is this a guy that you think maybe belongs in the conversation, or do you say, you know what, I'm going to go with maybe a more known commodity? I don't know much about this guy. From what I've seen, he looks solid, but
I think he is solid. I definitely think he's a name we could see pop up kind of in the vein that maybe he could be like Thomas Detry in a couple of years. But the other thing is he may not, right? I always take a wait and see approach with this. If you want to play a foreign player or a Euro player who's down in the 6K range and no one's talking about, play Ryan Fox. He withdrew from the Heritage.
Peters.
It's 26 at the Masters. 26 at the Masters. He hits it big off the tee. He's a long straight driver. I'd rather play that. I don't. Paul is a wild card. I think there's enough players down here. Steele, Yager, we just mentioned. Kuchar's 69. That I don't necessarily need to take that dive, but I understand why people would want to. It's always nice to be on, a guy like that when no one else is. Murnick's down here too, Adrian Muronic. So that's another player who I would feel more comfortable with than Yannick Paul. So
my biggest problem with him is that he's in a group of 10 guys that some of them are going to play well and some of them are going to be overmatched. Rasmus is down here. He's got all the talent in the world. He could play great. Callum Shinkwin is here. Thor Thunderbear is here. I think you can play a couple of these guys, but you want to be careful. Pick super one. Terrible. You know what I mean? Yeah, the variance on these guys, all of their miscut equity is gigantic. I would much rather play Jaeger, HV3, and Steele. I'm ashamed to say this. Honestly, I would almost rather play Noren than some of these guys.
Yeah.
In large fields, I want to be clear. Noren is a borderline, you got to look yourself in the mirror type play and really ask what you're doing with your life. But
at least Noren can I don't mind the known commodities, man. Noren we know can show up with the putter. It's some of this is how about the course you think the course is going to play too. If you think it's going to be a little bit shorter, we have certainly seen Noren just come out. In a lot of ways, Noren is like the cheaper version of Bez, where if his putter shows up, he's probably going to be top 25. So yeah, he's just as volatile, even though the record says he's way more volatile. It's kind of the same deal. So I don't really have anyone else under. Maybe there's a couple guys under 60. I don't have too much under 60.
What about Nick Taylor? We just got a question about Nick Taylor. Looking at him, he's been making some cuts, riding the putter. He's another one. He's in a big group of players. He might get swallowed up off the tee. If he doesn't, he'll be fine. But his off the tee game leaves a lot to be desired at a course like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Taylor's had a pretty good year. Kind of an underrated player, I guess. I'd probably, if I'm going down here, I would probably just play Olson or Fox. I just feel like they have a better chance at a top 10 in a major.
And ultimately, that's, even though it seems like the mindset is make the cut, if you're playing in to win the millie, coming in 56 does not help you. You gotta step up and get placement points.
Yeah. So I look at Fox. I look at Fox and Olson as good plays down here. I really do. I mean, I think those are the type of guys who they've done it before. Olson's finished top 10 in a major before. Fox was T26 at the Masters. He's done well at the Open. Those are players who have legitimate, like pedigree to their game. So
let's build a lineup before we get out of here. We got a couple minutes. What do you say, Jordan Klein? Little rapid fire build.
Yeah, and look, for Jordan Klein's purposes, I don't think Benny Ann's in the field this week.
He's not.
Big news here for Jordan Klein.
I might talk a little slower now to delay the NBA stream just for that last comment. I know everyone's so eager to see the Celtics steamroll tonight. They'll be on in 2 seconds. Relax, fella. Who is your first pick?
I'm going to talk. No, I'm just Joaquin Neiman. Let's go.
Neiman.
79. Right. Got to get
Here we go. I'm going to go right above him. Go to my man, Tommy Fleetwood. Oh, we've been putting him in this lineup every week.
Yeah.
Great. Why not stick with it?
All right. Well, after my what the hell is Fitzpatrick doing here? Let's just get him in. You know what the beauty of this is too? It would seem like we've just picked 3 of the chalkiest players in the event. That's not the case. Not the case at all in any of these. If you check out the projections, and you should, these guys aren't super chalky, which I love about all 3 of them.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're kind of leveraging right off the bat, and we haven't even done anything.
Yeah.
With 3 guys. I'm going to keep it really balanced for us, and then we're probably going to go 1 above and 1 below. I know this is a very us lineup. Give me Ricky.
Okay, here we go. So much. I mean, just such good play from Ricky, man. I mean, I like the way he's playing. Hope he has a big week. So many different things we could do here. This is kind of a 2v2 call, because if we go, I mean, it's obviously a 2v2, but like I don't mind guys like Day and Homa and Dustin, but if we go there, you're kind of forced into taking a guy I maybe don't want. So we could even go up to the top. So many things we could do right now. This is the danger of the majors.
Oh my God, there really is so many builds.
Insane. Like, could we even get to Rory? Like,
yeah. Oh yeah, easily.
Oh, let's go. I mean, we could do Rom Jaeger.
That's next word. That's what we're doing.
Okay, let's just do it. Let's finish it off like that.
Absolutely. I had Jaeger in there with 11-4.
Yeah.
And that's the
story
beauty.
Writes itself.
It's story writes itself. But the thing I love about this, the 2v2s write themselves. You can go Rory and a mid-7s. You can go Finau and a guy like Decky.
Oh, I like that. I actually like that better.
That's what I mean. That's like a serious build. That's one that could end up in my actual pool of some of those. So I hear you. It's a lot of stuff. I know we missed some stuff. We got through as much as we can. We appreciate you guys. Again, I just want to say real quick, it's a major. If you're looking to take it to the next level, come in for the week. Get your 50% off these tools. The links are below. And just thanks for tuning in. NBA guys are up next. You can follow me at JazzRazDFS. Follow Geoff at the Fantasy Grind. Jordan Klein, just trooper. He was on MLB. He's on golf. He's going to finish out NBA. Just an absolute boss behind the scenes. We're going to bounce on out here and set it up for the fellas. Good luck in the second major of the season. Thanks for stopping in at PGA Live before lock here at Stokastic. Don't go anywhere. NBA, Celtics, Heat coming up next.
It's that time of the week again. Time to induct some of you fine people into the Stokastic Hall of Fame. Give out some free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $120 value, and all you got to do to get your name on the board, to get that free month, download the Stokastic profile picture at stokastic.com/avatar. It's easy. Tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and boom, got a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. More importantly, you get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Crowning achievement, a moment of a lifetime. And hopefully we'll see you here for it next week. But we got some great ones this week. Kicking it off with John C. 2000. Just want to thank the Stokastic team. He lists a bunch of names, not going to do all of that, but finished third in the $20 NBA shoot-around. 1,000x my $20 buy-in for $20K. One lineup. Finally have money to buy some Super Chats. And Neil, where do you buy your flannel shirts? I need some. Congrats, man. Huge win there. Single bullet. Amazing stuff. LX Foley. Huge win last night using the lineup generator data. You guys know it. It's less than $4.50 for your first week. Baseball and basketball. Want to get in on that? Congrats, LX Foley. $15,000. Second place in the 300K Monday NBA clutch shot. 2 big wins out of the gate. Followed up by Ben Snapping. Appreciate y'all, boys. Sorry for the y'all. Yeah, I'll never be comfortable with that word, but that's all right, man. You can say whatever you want. It's your day. I know you're going to be the one reading this in the morning. Holler at me. Yeah, 37.50 right there for Jet Life to the next life in NBA tiers. We got a lot of tiers questions lately. Been snapping, put up a big one. First place, almost $4,000. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, fella. And the 20K Thursday NBA pick and roll third place goes to JDJ 764, $750. Third place out of almost 11,000. Shout out to JDJ. Easy for me to say. And how about AG? You guys got some names here. AG1216, bunch of robots. Or GOM16, Go MH16. I don't know. Anyway, he took third place on 23,781 entries, won $250 on 50 cents. Looks like a whole lot more than that as well, man. First place in the pickoff, first place in the elbow shot, second place in chin music, third place in the mini max. Huge night, man. Congratulations. Crash Money back again. When $5 becomes $2.50, you got to thank the whole Stokastic crew and Steve Buzzard, the Colts, for the office hours help. Yep, that's right. You get these free months, you're getting into the office hours. Steve's in there helping you guys refine your game. Who better than Steve to help you out? Best crew in projections and DFS. I could get used to this winning thing. Josh Prop, very simple man, at Stokastic, HOF, $175. Second place in the 5K mini max. And remember, it doesn't matter how much the entry fee is, whether it's $20, $5, or 5 cents. As long as it's top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, you're getting up here and you're getting the free month as well. Just like Josh, and just like, is it BLK, sir? Black Sir 89? Either way, shout out to the whole team. I'm always watching and using the tools at Stokastic.com and loving the results. Got a nice little ROI and the free month. I'll take it. Yeah, man, that's how it works. Like I said, third place in the wiffle ball, 150 max as well. And we'll round it out with Michael Thomas. Hit on my placeholder lineup. Always remember to keep that one in the game. But gosh darn it, leave more than a nickel and a quarter on it. How long until I can get that free month again, boys? I don't know. That's not for me to say. We'll have to go back and look. But congratulations, everyone. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. Welcome back if you've been here before. Remember, just rock that avatar wherever it is you play and tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF to get in on the action. And we'll see you back here for the next one.
Weird kid. What is happening, everybody? It is time for NBA Live Before Lock, and we don't do this very often here. We're trying something new today, and I think it's been going pretty well so far. We had MLB Live Before Lock, PGA Live Before Lock, and now the final leg to bring us home, the closer, NBA Live Before Lock. So as you guys come in, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're sponsored by Thrive today, so different looking sponsor than what we normally see, but happy to be joining you guys today. And Wednesday night, so I'm back here joined with Eric, and then, of course, the birthday boy, Jordan Klein himself. So all three of us going to be hanging out here together. And yeah, looking forward. It's going to be a good show. We got another one-game slate to talk about. And it's the start of a new series, so there's a little bit different of a look. Heat taking on the Boston Celtics. Eric, what's happening, man?
What's going on? You buried the lead. What leg are we, Greg?
We are the third leg, and I mean, what better way to bring home for Jordan's birthday?
Third leg, Greg. Third leg, Greg. Let's get it going, baby. Happy birthday, Jordan Klein. We'll do a little Happy birthday, dear president. Happy birthday.
Well, are we all uncomfortable now? Aren't we? Who's more uncomfortable right now, me or Jordan? I don't know why Jordan's so embarrassed that it's his birthday. By the way, something else I'm going to add also, there's a lot of construction going on in my house right now, and there's sawdust everywhere.
Yep.
And I was on meetings earlier today. I was having trouble talking because like there's just sawdust everywhere in the air. And every once in a while I'll breathe it in and I'll get some of it in my lungs. And it just feels like it'd be healthier if I quit the construction and just started smoking around my house, just chain smoking cigarettes. I feel like that'd be better for my health. But right now, if I just all of a sudden am not able to talk in the middle of the show and start coughing, like that's the issue. I've just breathed in a bunch of sawdust. So we're working on that as well. It is tough times around here, but looking forward to that part of my house being finished whenever that gets done. For today, though, Eric, let's start just general overview of the series between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. If you guys have any questions, leave us a super chat at us in the Discord channel. I'll be checking that out and looking for any questions you guys have for us. It's one of the perks of being a Stokastic Plus Platinum member. You get access to our Discord channel. You can add us anytime that you want. Eric, who's winning this series between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat, and how many games is it going?
4.
And I assume you're picking the Celtics.
I am.
All right. And MVP? Any MVP?
Jason Tatum. Yeah, I bet it.
Okay, me too. I actually thought that was one of the most mispriced lines there were of the entire playoff. So it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Do you remember what line did you get it at?
Minus 185.
Okay. Mine's minus 180, a little bit better, but the same thought process here.
Yep.
The Celtics opened minus 550 to win the series.
Yep.
And Tatum was minus 180 to win MVP. Didn't really make a whole lot of sense at all. It was like, so in the Nuggets series, it opened Denver minus 155 to win the series, and I bet Denver to win the series. But then it was Jokic minus 150 to win MVP. Like, that should have been more in line with what was going on this series. Not saying that Jason Tatum is the same lock to win MVP that Nikola Jokic would be if Denver wins the series, but Tatum should be something like a minus 400 or something like that to be MVP when the Celtics are minus 550. So that is a bet that I overall like for the series. You and I are on the same page there. And then we didn't get to talk about the other series because I was doing the show with Lofty last night. What is your expectation for the series between the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Lakers? And then do you have a finals pick winner from there?
Yeah, I said Lakers in 6. I thought that I'm not going to change that at this point in time after one basketball game. I'm very interested to see game 2. I just did all the breakdown of that, rewatched some of the game this morning just to get an idea of exactly what happened with Rui Hachimura coming in that 9-minute mark and some of the interesting things that occurred defensively for the Lakers. Don't know. I think there's a realistic chance that Rui Hachimura ends up starting tomorrow. I don't know if it would be in place of Schroeder or in place of one D'Angelo Russell, but it's a game that I'm really excited about. And there's no doubt about it. Nikola Jokic, I mean, just playing like a dude who's got 2 MVPs in his closet and doesn't really care about those and wants an NBA championship instead. Whereas I think Joel Embiid played basketball like the opposite of that. Pretty fascinating stuff that we're going to have going forward, but definitely some major defensive changes that the Lakers need to make. They can't score 126 points and lose basketball games in this series.
So I'm on Denver. Last night, Lofty and I were doing, I picked Denver to win in 5. I bet Denver to win the series. And I wasn't super encouraged by game 1. I know Denver ended up winning and Jokic played out of his mind. Both teams shot extremely well from 3. It felt to me like a lot more of the shots Denver was hitting was more unsustainable than the shots the Lakers were hitting. The Lakers had like Austin Reeves was wide open for a bunch of shots he knocked down in the 4th quarter. Anthony Davis had a bunch of easy looks. Whereas some of the shots Denver is hitting, it's like that shot that Jokic hit in the 3rd quarter. Just
my God,
ridiculous. But that's like so many of the shots Denver was hitting. Jamal Murray hit some crazy contested shots. So I get that both of them probably shot a little bit over their heads from 3, but I came away looking at that like, boy, Denver has to create easier shots because you can't rely on that kind of shot making. So like you, I'm sticking by Denver, but I do feel it's funny. They won game 1 and I came away a little bit less confident than I was going into the series.
That happens. And again, I'm not crazy excited about the fact that they're down 1-0 right now. And I mean, I've never been a Lakers fan by any means, just being out here, and they're the most annoying fan base on planet Earth. Second that, Jordan Klein? Seconded? Yeah, by far.
No, okay. No. It is the Milwaukee Bucks fan base. I found that out by tweeting some stuff about Nikola Jokic earlier in the year. And they were in my mentions the entire year about how Jokic sucks, Giannis should win MVP. And if I think Jokic is MVP, like the only possible conclusion is that I'm racist. The only possible way, which there's no response to. The other thing too is there was a Bucks beat reporter who last year voted Jokic for MVP. And what Bucks fans try to do is they try to get him fired from The Athletic, I believe was the outlet. So what they did is they stopped supporting his work, wouldn't read it anymore, and they basically boycotted him to try to get him fired because he voted Jokic for MVP last year. So I'm going to go with the Bucks as the most annoying fan base. And that has been my experience this year is you tweet anything positive about Nikola Jokic or anything like that, and they get on you and they're like, Giannis is better, and they will tweet at you for months about it.
Well, it's weird because Midwest people seem so commonsensical sometimes, just relaxed and calm. That's strange.
Yeah, well, I mean, they get a little full of themselves because they own the Green Bay Packers, and then they show up and it's just nonsense.
Yep, they're geniuses like that. $500 for a piece of paper. Hope you enjoy it.
By the way, sponsored today, Thrive Fantasy. And we haven't had Thrive as a sponsor for quite some time. But here's one reason you guys should definitely get involved at Thrive. The over-under for Jason Tatum points today, Eric, 0.5. I'm going to put you on the hot seat here. Over-under 0.5 points for Jason Tatum.
I'll go more.
All right. I'm on the same page as you.
Okay.
I'll double check our projections, though. You've got him right around 30. The other thing, too, Jason Tatum,
okay.
Do you know how many games this year he scored at least 1 point?
It's got to be close to all of them, right?
It's all of them. He had that one.
Cool.
He had that one really, really terrible game against the 76ers.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't score in the first half. He did finish with 7 in that game, which is still more than 0.5. So if you guys just want a totally free square, a no-brainer that you're going to win, go take advantage of Thrive Fantasy. Check out what they have and the different props you can play over there. You're going to get over 0.5 points for Jason Tatum. And if you sign up using the link that we have below, a 100% deposit match bonus of up to $250. A lot of these sites usually do $100. Thrive is doing $250. So go sign up, use our link that we have below, $250 bonus match, and you get access to that over 0.5 points for Jason Tatum, which we both feel pretty good about around here. Now, let's start talking about the showdown contest. We'll be talking about DraftKings. We'll be talking about FanDuel. But I want to start here, Eric, by talking about DK and the captain. So I'm just refreshing our ownership to make sure that we're looking at the most recent run here. And I want to ask you, and I'm going to ask you because it's my job here. I could ask you whatever I want. Always like you get the coaches sometimes are like, boy, I wish we could play this guy more. Well, you could. You just go play.
You have an option. Yeah, that's available to you.
And I also just wanted to hesitate for a second to make sure that the ownership was refreshed on my page and had the most updated one there.
That's the pro move. That's the pro move.
Got it in front of me here. We have Jason Tatum currently projected for 23.3% ownership in the captain spot. Then we've got a bunch of guys right around 10%. Time Lord, 12.8. Jimmy Butler, 13.8. Marcus Smart, 10.5. We've got Bam Adebayo, 11%. Jaylen Brown, 10.3%. Brogdon, 7%. Nobody else really picking up ownership in the captain spot. Let's start with Tatum. If you're playing in a large field tournament, would you want to be overweight or underweight to the 23.3% mark on Tatum?
Overweight. That was one of the really good stands. I can't remember. I did a show on Sunday. It was me and Josh, and I ended up splitting for first, which was really cool. And the $8, I got in the late. I got second in one, and I split for first in the other because I didn't get all of the entries in, and I just jammed a lot of Jason Tatum in the captain. I think that's going to be the same thing that I do here, where I just get way over the field on it. Felt pretty confident that he's going to be seeing the most usage. He's rebounding at an insane clip here as well. And I get that this is a different series, but it's still going to be slow paced and similar to what we had in that last matchup. 96.3 possessions per 48 minutes do the Miami Heat play. That's pretty much on par with what the Knicks were at with 97.4. So I'm pretty confident we're going to see enough possessions where this rebounding continues. He's just been at such a ridiculous clip there where you're locking in a double-double. It would seem like every other night. He's now had double-digit rebounds in 4 of his last 5, 40-plus minutes a night. Yep. That's just like a guarantee. It's so hard to get away from just jamming him up top.
Yeah, and I mean, earlier in the day, I was doing my Odd Shopper video, and I was looking at some bets, and the over-under for Tatum opened up at 10.5 rebounds. I thought that was a little high as an over-under for rebounds, so I do like the under on that. I haven't checked to see if it's still available. We'll look at bets in a little bit to see what's popping up now. But with that said, like one of my reasons is like, hey, the pace of play is going to be a little bit slower in this game. It doesn't really matter on a 1-game slate. Pace of play is same for everybody. So I'm with you. If you guys are playing cash games today, I'm sure it's a question that's going to come up. Play Jason Tatum, even in tournaments. I think that Tatum is a pretty good captain option, and he's popular, but not insanely popular at the captain on DK. They're 23.3%. Now, we've got, like I said, a bunch of guys right around 10%. To read off those names again: Time Lord, Jimmy Butler, Marcus Smart, Bam Adebayo, Malcolm Brogdon, Jaylen Brown. Of those, who's your least favorite? Which of those guys is picking up ownership? You're like, I don't feel great about that.
I don't feel well amongst the next tier. We're not talking just the expensive guys, the guys getting ownership, correct?
Yeah, because
I do not feel good about Robert Williams in any way, shape, or form. We're going to get the starting lineup while we're here. I don't know if they continue. It would make sense logically that if you get Kevin Love and Bam Adebayo, that you could just go Al Horford and Robert Williams and kind of keep that intact from the last 2 games. But it's a new series, and sometimes you'll just see things get reset in a different way. Derek White has been the primary starter there all season long until those last 2 games. So there's an at least chance that you're going to see those minutes come down and maybe he doesn't start. He played 20.
I'm pretty sure he's starting, by the way.
I'm pretty sure he is too, but I'm just saying that like there's still that chance where that isn't the case. But also it was a game 6 and a game 7 where you saw 28 and 30 minutes for Robert Williams. I would not be surprised if those minutes came down to 24, 26. These are not must-win games here by any means, and I think there's a lot of scenarios where Al Horford ends up the lone big man on the floor. You don't probably have to push Robert Williams to 30 minutes here in the first couple games of this series. He looked really, really good defensively and did all the things that they asked him to. Just the 2 blocks in game 6 came in handy there towards the end of that game. But Robert Williams, we've got him for 26 minutes here at Stokastic. I think that that's about appropriate. I could see downside, though, to that. Give me more raw points at the top.
Yeah, and not to harp on it too much, but the Celtics did say yesterday Williams will be starting.
Okay,
like
I didn't see that.
There's a chance that he could end up playing slightly less minutes in this spot, but we'll end up seeing. And, one thing that if you want to take a stand on, I was talking about this last night with Lofty, if you want to take a stand that teams are going to be doing something different with the rotation, game 1 is the time to do it, right? Because this is where things really have the most turnover. So with that in mind, is that a change you are expecting the Celtics to make, is less minutes for Time Lord and more for Derek White in game 1?
I'm not saying that it's like a lock. I mean, obviously we're going to see it's an 8-point spread, 8.5 in some spots. I think the primary sentiment is that like Robert Williams played really well. You would think that you keep him out there, but again, he's had so many injuries and you want to try to just keep doing what you've been doing with him if you can. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if he played 24, 26 minutes just to keep those minutes limited, push him in some of those games where they're must-win type scenarios, closeout games, things of that nature. For me, it's just kind of also making a case for a guy that I don't expect to play as many minutes as a Tatum and a Butler and a Bam Adebayo and a Marcus Smart and a Jaylen Brown. I prefer all of them just from a raw points perspective than I do Robert Williams. Is he a really good fantasy point per minute guy and is he way cheaper? Sure. But the ownership is there in such a way that I think I'm going to just take the path of least resistance and just jam in more raw points and play Robert Williams almost exclusively in the utility.
Yeah, he is fairly popular right now in the captain. Well, it's relative. Like, it's not like he's insanely popular, but 12.8% projected ownership as the captain. That is the 3rd most captain ownership. Jason Tatum being 1, Jimmy Butler 2, and then we've got Time Lord there at 3. So the other thing I want to ask you then, as far as captains go, if you do not like Robert Williams, does it mean you just like going expensive at captain, or is there a cheap captain you like in his place?
There's one captain that I'm really surprised is coming out as a piece that I'm getting to. It's Cody Zeller. He's 0.4% owned. He's 1,500. He's the floor 1K guy. Yeah. But he gives you access to be able to play in a lineup: Jason Tatum, Jimmy Butler, Jaylen Brown, Bam Adebayo, everybody, and you can mix and match who that other player is going to be. I have iterations of that lineup where I'm just jamming all the studs, and I think Cody Zeller is going to see the floor. Like, there's no doubt about that. He's played the last couple games here. You're going to get 8-9 minutes from him. It is what it is. But you saw a chance for him to get to 12 minutes against the Knicks. It was game 3, that he ended up getting a little bit more run there where Bam Adebayo got in some early foul trouble. There's stuff like that works out you also have blowout run. And so I'll take the 1K guy where I can get every single stud in some of those wonky type game scripts. 0.4% ownership in the captain. I know that's a weird one to go, but when you said cheap, that is the cheapest you can go. And I'm getting to a little bit of it over the field.
So there is ownership going to Cody Zeller, but it's in the utility spot, not the captain spot.
Yep.
We got him projected for 20.2% ownership there. And I don't know that it's necessary to get him at the captain spot by any means, but I understand what you're getting to. You're giving yourself a different lineup build than other people, kind of unlimited salary. And it's one of those spots too. Cody Zeller, you know what, if you get the chance, he goes and plays 8 minutes and scores like 14, 15 fantasy points and the studs go off. I could see a scenario where that ends up working out. So let's look then at some of
people understand what I'm doing there, right? Like this isn't like some foreign concept that I'm pulling out of my ass. Like this is just the ability to have those game scripts where Tatum, Butler, Brown all go for 50, and it's hard to get them all in the same lineup. And the only way to really do that is to captain somebody that's just completely unowned and that is as cheap as possible. So there's a very clear way that works out.
I wouldn't say it's clear. Like, I wouldn't say it's clear, but I understand how it could. It's just the studs go off and Cody Zeller has like a decent point per minute game off the bench.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's reasonable. I could see, particularly if you look at the ownership we have on DraftKings, there aren't, especially for if you don't want to play Robert Williams in the captain spot, like you were saying, and you're trying to find other cheap ones to get to, which was the question I asked. There aren't that many other cheap guys to get to. Like, here are the viable cheap options. These are the players that are cheap that the field is playing today. Robert Williams, Kevin Love, Caleb Martin, Cody Zeller, end of list. It's only those 4. And of those 4, the only one who's picking up captain ownership is Robert Williams. So there aren't really that many cheap captains to go to. And I kind of put Eric on the spot by said, give me a different cheap captain you like. If the answer isn't going to be nobody, you only got 3 other guys to choose from, and all of them are kind of make people go, what? Really? But those are what the options are for a 1-game slate. But let's go and talk about FanDuel, where we've even more concentrated ownership at the MVP spot. Tatum, 40% owned. Jimmy Butler, 34%. I'm actually fairly surprised that it's this close between the two of them. Butler, 34%. Tatum here, 40%. Like, there's only 6 percentage points. I would like to, and by the way, this is not me being biased in any way because of my rivalry with Jimmy Butler. I don't think him and Tatum should be close to even owned at the the MVP spot on FanDuel, where we don't have to worry about the 1.5x multiplier. Does it also seem odd to you that there's so little of a gap in their ownership on the MVP spot?
You beat me to it. I'm playing a lot more on FanDuel today because of that. I was surprised as well, pulling up our projections. Wanted to make sure I looked over FanDuel. Didn't anticipate them being neck and neck like this. I'm just going to jam Jason Tatum. Another spot, just like I did Sunday. I'll run it back. Happy to be playing the guy that I have projected much better. And at equal ownership, just about equal ownership, pretty easy for me to just land on as much Tatum as I possibly can. Currently have 78% Jason Tatum in the MVP spot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Is Butler your second most?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yep. 12% of him, and then just the smattering of Jaylen Brown. Just nobody like some else? Long dart throw. Nobody else. Those are the only 3.
So then what are you doing to differentiate your lineups on FanDuel, if anything?
So to differentiate, there's a couple of plays. It's primarily the pro, and this was talking through it with Josh a little bit last game. There's such concentrated ownership when you get to that pro spot because people will click on Jason Tatum, they'll click on Jimmy Butler, and then the pro spot just becomes Marcus Smart by default. He's 9,500. He's 3,000 cheaper than Al Horford. He's 1,500 cheaper than Kyle Lowry. So I'm just going to get to more of those pieces that people aren't going to get to because Marcus Smart currently 22.2% in the pro spot. I think that's a little bit heavy for me. I'm going to be playing him primarily in the utility spot, bypassing him in other spots and just trying to find anybody else, basically taking the field, going up against that 0.25% of the lineups that are going to be having Marcus Smart specifically in that spot. I'm going to be playing a lot of the Tatum, a lot of the Butlers, everybody else. But just by making that one move, by getting to some cheaper pieces, by going the maybe Jason Tatum, Bam Adebayo route in the star, and then just any X player in the pro, whether that's Robert Williams, whether that's going Jaylen Brown then, because I should have the salary to be able to do that. A lot of ways where I'm just getting away from Marcus Smart. Primarily took him out of the pro spot, only in 4% of my lineups there, and I'm just spreading it across the board.
Yeah, and like you said, and how popular Marcus Smart is in the pro spot, which is just driven by what the salaries are there. 22.2% ownership projected for Marcus Smart in the pro spot, and then we don't have anybody else higher than 14%. Al Horford at 14%, Kyle Lowry at 14%. So the other thing too that I do find kind of interesting, Robert Williams, so popular on DraftKings, as we just talked about before, seems to be getting overlooked on FanDuel. Yep. We've got him 5.6% in the pro spot, 28.2% in the utility. I know you said you like him as a way to differentiate. It's funny. That's one of the advantages to playing on different sites. You could be light on Robert Williams on DraftKings and still be rooting for him to have a good game because he looks more favorable on FanDuel. $7,500 for Robert Williams on FanDuel. People aren't really getting there. Did you say you're willing to play him in the star spot as well, or more just pro spot to be?
So I'm playing him a lot in the pro, 36% in the pro. I have 4% in the star spot.
Still a lot more than the field. We got Time Lord 0.3% owned in the star spot on FanDuel. So that's
some leverage. Yeah, I've got 4%.
I mean, you're more than 10x the field on Robert Williams in that spot. So definitely think that's a good stance by you on Time Lord. I do think he's probably the most under-owned player in the entire FanDuel slate. Is that fair to say?
Yes and no. I think it's like the ownership on Marcus Smart is appropriate, but I think he's a little bit over-owned relative to where he is. Yeah, I'm going to say underappreciated. Robert Williams. I mean, the utility is popular, 28.2%. For me, it's just simply taking a guy who's 7,500 that everybody else, if you're hand building, you're not going to land on him in the pro because, well, again, you're going to be playing the Marcus Smart, Al Horford, Kyle Lowry, just the more expensive pieces because people think expensive equals that's what they're projected for and they are expected to do better. But just by playing a ton of Robert Williams, who's 7,500 on that slate in the pro, gives you so much leverage there. So yeah, the utility, he's the most owned player. But then just by finding that pivot to the pro, it can really work out for you. Especially, we haven't seen that emerging like 4-5 stock game from him pretty much this entire postseason. I mean, he was locked with Joel Embiid. That'll do it for you. But I'm with you. I think in the pro spot specifically, Robert Williams probably the best piece of leverage on the slate.
By the way, we just got an ownership update. I saw Lee put in the Discord chat that he was updating ownership and just came through. So I'm looking over it now. There's like minor tweaks here in terms of like some players are 1-2 percentage points higher. There's nothing I see as like a massive overhaul. I don't know. Well, actually, here's one that's kind of interesting. Tatum is now 38.8% the MVP on FanDuel. Jimmy Butler 36.1%. So that gap actually gotten even tighter now.
Oh, God. Well, then I'm going to end up getting more because that's going to be how it works out. We did get the exact starting lineup that we got from the last 2 games for Boston. No Derek White.
Smart, Brown, Tatum, Horford, and Time Lord Robert Williams. So that is the official starting lineup.
What are you going to do with Derek White today? Because this feels just awfully icky to know that he's at least in this rotation pretty prominently, and yet we're not going to play him like at all.
Let's see. Derek White. Looking through, hardly getting to him in my DraftKings lineups. Hardly getting to him in my FanDuel lineups. Here's the problem is like, ultimately, I just feel he's a lesser player than Malcolm Brogdon. When he comes off the bench, I expect Brogdon to play more. And the other thing too, is that it's not like Derek White's the best fantasy producer in the world. And then also his salary right now, he is 5,400 on DK. FanDuel, he is 8,000. There's just a lot of players that are cheaper that I expect better production from. It's not like he's unowned either. He is projected for, it would help if I spelled White correctly, 11% ownership on DraftKings. FanDuel, we've got Derek White at 16% ownership. I'm just not interested. Do you feel differently?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's so weird because you get on these slates and the price has started to come down. I mean, he's 8K over on the FanDuel slate where I have a little bit more exposure today. And on DK, we're still waiting for it to come down even further, I would think. But it's so wild to know that you're going to get about the minutes you would want to make him a part of the rotation. 5,400 on DK, 19 down to 12 minutes. I don't know what to make of it. Like, he could play anywhere from 10 to 25 minutes. and nothing would probably surprise me in that range. And that's enough, you would think, where it's like, well, now he's a leverage piece because everybody else has the same concerns that we have looking at that box score. But maybe you just embrace it and I get to a little bit because currently I have 0% as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm not 0%, but not much. I have 4% on DraftKings. Let's see if I can find him on FanDuel.
I feel better about Grant Williams, which should tell you how bad that is.
And 6% on FanDuel. So Grant Williams, somebody you're getting to then?
Yeah, 6K over on the FanDuel slate. You're trying to find some of those pieces where you're just be able to jam the studs again in a similar capacity. He's at the absolute floor there. And it's a game one where things can open up a little bit more from time to time. Now, we saw a very tightened rotation for the Western Conference Finals in that game one. You saw 8-man rotation from both sides of it. Rui Hachimura was the big surprise there, getting up to 28 minutes. There's probably going to be somebody who surprises us at the end of the day if this game stays competitive like that one did. I'm trying to figure out who it might be. I think getting to Grant Williams at 6K is probably the only 6K player I really want to get to.
And then DraftKings also consideration for you, or more just more FanDuel?
More FanDuel. I've talked about Zeller being the 1K piece to get to over there. You're getting 2,200. He's actually 2.7% owned. So, I mean, still not really any ownership coming in there, but that's been when things don't go right away for the Celtics. They've gone to him. I mean, he played 29 minutes in that game too for Philly, faded out as that series went on because, again, he's Grant Williams. He's not good. He's only a 0.71 fantasy point per minute producer, but I don't know. There's weirder things that could happen. There's at least a case I can make where Grant Williams shows up on the floor a little bit more. Hard to get to Peyton Pritchard unless it's a blowout script you're building out for. Hard to get to Sam Hauser. Hard to get to Luke Cornett, things like that.
Any 1K guys outside of Cody Zeller on DraftKings they're playing?
I don't think I really have to. Haywood Highsmith would probably be my second favorite to get to. I contemplated, if I'm going to play some 5-1s where it's just completely wonky, maybe you get to Haywood Highsmith as somebody who could actually come in and maybe played 15 minutes it was in game 2 against the Knicks. And then just, again, minutes faded out throughout that series as well, similar to Grant Williams. I'm not in love with it. I think Duncan Robinson at 3,400 is probably the one piece of leverage you could get to. A little bit more expensive. We know he's going to be on the floor for double-digit minutes, and yet he's right around 4.4%. I'd rather just take anything I was thinking about there with Haywood Highsmith, who's actually pulling 2.8%. I'll get to builds where I just play Duncan Robinson instead.
And let's go and look at Discord. We have a question here. First from our guy, Sam Caseldansu. I always love talking to Sam, especially on Saturdays when it comes to UFC. But he's saying, WTF, I love the Milwaukee Bucks. Care to walk that back at all? Absolutely not. And also, knowing that Sam is a Milwaukee Bucks fan, I do think it kind of makes me feel even stronger about my stance from before.
I mean, it's just sometimes people aren't nice, and it is what it is. I mean, I've had somebody in the chat already tell me to kill myself. That was very nice of them. Thank you to them. So it's stuff like that where it's like you have somebody say something not nice, you kind of remember it. It's like,
and Eric brings up a good point too, that sometimes there's really good advice in the chat. So it goes both ways. sometimes
I like how we make jokes about this now. Like 2.5, 3 years ago, I would have been like this.
Yeah.
Sorry. I would have been apologizing for the person.
Yeah. No, there are some sharp people in the chat.
My wife just texted me, who do I need to kill?
Yeah.
She's funny.
Yeah. You. So the next question here, Einsteinium. It would solve some of the issues in the YouTube chat. Yeah. Einsteinium, thoughts on Marcus Smart captain, and are you underweight on Brogdon? So Marcus Smart is a captain. Is he somebody that you're playing in the captain spot on DK? Obviously, we wouldn't consider him on FanDuel, but DK, where the cost is different. I know you said before he's the player you're most underweight to, at least on FanDuel. But for DraftKings, do you feel similarly?
So he's pulling quite a bit of captain ownership right now. He's double digits. And I think I've made it pretty clear. I'm going to be playing Tatum, Butler. I'm going to be playing all the way up for the studs. And then Cody Zeller's the only other piece, because I don't think there's a lot of leverage to be had getting to some of these pieces in the mid-range. Your builds look very, very similar. You start building some of those out by hand. I played a couple of smart lineups. I was going to play cash for this slate just to kind of mix it up a little bit, have some extra exposure. just because I think people haven't necessarily been going directly off projections from what I've seen from just looking at other people that have been playing cash and posting lineups and stuff on Twitter. But think we should probably be getting away from some of these mid-range plays. Like Robert Williams, your builds are going to look very similar unless you are leaving a ton of salary, and that's just so suboptimal. Same kind of problem you're running into with Marcus Smart. So for me, I'm happy to embrace the risk of trying to play a Cody Zeller, trying to play, just one or two of the studs in a lineup. And just, I'm undercutting Jimmy Butler in a pretty prominent way on both sites. I'm undercutting Robert Williams completely at the captain spot, FanDuel Marcus Smart completely out of the pro spot. So I'm kind of picking and choosing my spots to get leverage and going to kind of let it run out that way.
And then the other part of the question is, am I underweight to Malcolm Brogdon? No, I'm the opposite. I'm overweight to Malcolm Brogdon. I like Brogdon a lot as a real life player. And, we haven't seen him play the biggest minutes in the world in the regular season, but I do think in the postseason, we're just getting to a point too where Brogdon had such a good season and they were really conservative with his minutes. I think there's this opportunity in the postseason, particularly in the last couple of series here, the Eastern Conference Finals, the finals, assuming the Celtics make it there, where we just see bigger minutes out of Brogdon. I'm overweight to him. How about yourself?
Yeah, Brogdon's a great play. I think Brogdon, especially in the captain, where you're getting 7%. I think we've played enough of these slates. We start getting in a rhythm of knowing who's going to end up being more popular. Like we've had our finger on the pulse pretty well over the course of these showdown slates now for a while. You and I both have. Even the 2-game slates, you kind of get a feel for what the field's going to do if it isn't necessarily always being expressed. But I do think the field is undercutting Malcolm Brogdon at the captain spot. I want to be in double digits there. I'm bypassing the Marcus Smarts and the Robert Williams in order to get to a little bit of Malcolm Brogdon. Not as much as I was expecting to, but that's just because Jaylen Brown is sitting at 10.3%. And I think that's pretty incorrect. Another piece that I'm just way over the field on for captain.
Yep, I dig it. We're on the same page with that stuff there. The next question that we have here is from Basti G. Basti wants to know contrarian picks for the flex on DK, and then there's other parts of this, but we'll do one part at a time.
Okay.
First part of Basti's question, contrarian picks for the flex on DK. So first off, what do we want to consider contrarian? Under 30%? Is that fair?
Sure, that's fair. Cody Zeller, he's 1K. He's pulling 20% ownership. That's pretty low owned. Again, you're going for those specific builds where you're just jamming studs. So yeah, him and the utility, another piece I'm overweight to.
All right, let me look and see.
Also, Kyle Lowry. I know it's not fun and people make fun of him because he's tubby and does different things and don't like him.
Hey, he's
been very effective for the Heat, especially of late. And getting to 31 minutes now in 3 of his last 5 games, getting 30 plus in 4 of those 6 games in that Knicks series. Hard not to like Kyle Lowry at 6,800 pulling 23.2% ownership. Pretty easy for me to get over the field on that. I know from a projection basis that he is $200 away from Marcus Smart, but he is almost half the ownership. And it's not crazy to imagine a scenario where Marcus Smart doesn't shoot the ball all that well, and Kyle Lowry just blows him out of the water. So I think Kyle Lowry at 6,800 for $200 less. If you have a really chalky lineup, that 1-for-1 swap can do a lot for you.
Yep, I'm looking through my lineups right now, and Kyle Lowry is somebody that I am overweight to as well. Not as overweight as Kyle Lowry is himself, but still, I mean, Kyle Lowry, I think, is somebody to get a good amount of exposure to. There's a lot of variance in Kyle Lowry, for the better or for the worse. For a one-game showdown slate, this is where you embrace the variance. This is where you go with a guy like Kyle Lowry and his fat ass. You just don't know what's going to happen because he has these games where he, as of like back-to-back games where he played 31 minutes against the Knicks. But then he has some of these other games where it's like he plays 24 minutes. He's not really on the court all that often. But we've seen a definite ceiling for Kyle Lowry in the playoffs. The Heat, another player who the Heat were really conservative with Kyle Lowry's role in the regular season because this is what they were saving him for. What are these postseason scenarios, these high leverage games? And we've seen it when these games are tight. The Miami Heat are much more willing to rely on Kyle Lowry than somebody like Gabe Vincent or Duncan Robinson. They go with the veteran who has the experience. So there's an upside in Kyle Lowry. I'm with you. I like getting to him.
Love it. I'm glad we're on the same page with that one. That one felt a little bit more clear cut for DK. Like that's just an easy play to change your lineups compared to other people's. And it's avoiding duplication. It's avoiding a lot of other things. And I don't think it's that infrequent where we run into Kyle Lowry outperforming Marcus Smart. I know that they're 6 points away in terms of projection, but is it 65% of the time that Marcus Smart beats out Kyle Lowry? I don't think that's probably accurate.
And then the next part of the question was best captain other than Tatum. And then he had a last man in question, but best captain other than Tatum. So who is the player you have the second most exposure to in the captain spot on DK behind Jason Tatum?
Yeah, Jaylen Brown.
It is Jimmy Butler for me.
Okay, that's fair. I like getting to some Jimmy Butler. I'm undercutting him on both sites, but he's the fourth. So I have 8% Jimmy Butler. I have a ton of Jason Tatum.
Yeah, I do. At his projected ownership, I do not like Jimmy Butler at the MVP on FanDuel. DraftKings, different story. I like him. It's modest ownership, 13%. I think that's worth getting.
Well, also, yeah, that's exactly it. He's almost half the ownership there of Jason Tatum. And then you're still going to run into the utility. We have him, 42.6% Jimmy Butler in the utility. The easiest way to get different from that, if you're going to undercut it, is to just play some lineups in the captain. It's not that hard to play him 20% in the captain and then undercut him in the utility and still have that exposure to the ceiling game.
The next part of his question was lots of little nuances to Basti G's question, but I love it. Helps us, get access to whatever it is. Whenever you guys ask us questions, it lets me know what it is you guys are thinking about, what you want us to talk about. It's usually indicative of what a lot of other people have on their minds. So then the last part is last man in a GPP, Time Lord, Lowry, or Vincent. I mean, there's such big gaps in the pricing there. So I'm going to say Kyle Lowry. Like Time Lord is somebody who I like overall more, like just in the lineups I built, I get to more exposure to Time Lord than Kyle Lowry, but I'm more overweight to Kyle Lowry. And if salary isn't an issue, it's Kyle Lowry over Time Lord for me.
Agreed. I'm going to sneeze. Hang on.
All right. All good. I will allow it.
Nope. I'm not. Never mind. I'm okay.
Look at you. Toughed it out and swallowed
I know.
Jay wants to know highest projected lineup with Tatum at captain, Jimmy Butler and Grant at utility.
I will run my optimal right now for you.
It needs to have Tatum locked into the captain and then Jimmy Butler and Grant Williams at utility.
So those are interesting builds. I will throw that in for you here right now. Jason Tatum, I'm going to lock him. I'm going to lock in the utility Jimmy Butler and Grant Williams. And when I crunch that, taking randomness off, I get Tatum, Butler, Spruce, Smart, and then both Williamses. Williams-I, if you will.
All the Williamses. So there you go. I hope that helps you build your lineup there, Jay. And then username wants to know, what is the minutes projection for Grant Williams? How many minutes are you expecting from Grant Williams today?
I have him for 24 and a half.
Ooh, that is a lot more than I believe I have. All right, Grant.
Oh, Grant Williams. I thought you said Robert. Sorry, I misheard you. We were just talking about the Williams-I. Grant Williams, I've got for 5.5 minutes.
Yeah, I went with 6 for Grant Williams. So not that much different from you.
Yep.
His minutes have been super weird in the playoffs. Remember, like the first series, he went from not in the rotation, ahead of Robert Williams in the rotation, lots of minutes, and then not in the rotation again. So he's been somebody whose minutes been tough to nail down, but I don't even think he's guaranteed to see the court today.
Yeah, I don't either. I think he probably does because it's a game one. I think you could see that happen. Again, I say that fully well. I expected for both the Lakers and Denver to play more than 8 guys, and neither of them did. So it's one of those things where you don't really know, but you want to embrace it. And I think there's a lot of ways. That's why I have Grant Williams on FanDuel, and I'm not really doing that over on DK because, well, on FanDuel, he's 6K, and I get access to those builds, and you need to play somebody. I think he's that you need to play somebody piece for those type of builds.
And the next question here is some super chats coming, and this one is from James Magruder. He wants to know Bruce Brown or Marcus Smart for the 2-game slate. That is going to be Marcus Smart for me.
Definitely Marcus Smart by a lot, actually.
And then Shikari Mfood wants to know, is Robert Williams starting? Yes, he is. Yeah. Robert Williams is starting at center for the Boston Celtics today. And then DC24 wants to know, what is the most amount of money I'm willing to leave on the table for this slate on DraftKings? Well, let me look through my lineups. The answer is going to be a lot.
I have 1,800 is the most. And this is weird because on Sunday, 800, I made like somewhere around 40 lineups. 800 was the most that I had in any of those. Ended up splitting first and second in a couple of different GPPs, but much more salary on the table this time around. Different matchups and obviously different pricing. I think you can get away with leaving more on the table for this game than on Sundays.
It is 2,300 for me is the most I have on the table for any one lineup. So that's where I'm at. Yeah, like I mean, it's a 1-game slate, and I do think that's one of the more reasonable ways to differentiate. Just leave salary on the table. The other thing too, you talked about Cody Zeller before. Cody Zeller is 1,000. If you have him in lineups, like I think it's pretty reasonable to play him over some of the guys like Grant Williams, who's more like, is it ridiculous to think that he outscores Grant Williams? I don't think so. Is it ridiculous to think he outscores Duncan Robinson, who's 2,400 more than him? I don't think so. So I think it's very reasonable, particularly, well, on both sites, really, but to leave a bunch of salary on the table.
It's so easy. Like I feel more confident Cody Zeller sees the floor than Grant Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Like by a landslide. Cody Zeller played every single game of that Knicks series. He only played 7-8 minutes in almost all of them, but that's just guaranteed time he's actually on the floor. And if you have a lineup that zeroes out at Grant Williams, just put in Cody Zeller.
Yeah, I have no issue with that at all. Next question we have here is from James Magruder. James wants to know, Brogdon with Butler at captain or Smart with Tatum at captain? I prefer Smart with Tatum at captain.
Definitely.
And a couple more questions. This one, Malcolm Revamp. Besides Tatum, Butler, and Smart, who for value on DK? Well, I mean, if you're starting with Tatum and Butler as your value plays, leaving yourself a lot of salary on the other spots. But I'd say that's where you go to Cody Zeller and probably Robert Williams as well. Like if you're that committed to going that expensive, it's going to be Cody Zeller and Robert Williams.
Yep, same.
3, Windy 1, City 2. Brogdon or Smart, DK showdown. That is, let's see, who I have more exposure to? Pretty similar. It's Smart. If it's just a 1-for-1 and you're not worrying about salary, then it's Smart.
Correct. What if Bam gets in foul trouble? Yeah, then you're running into more Cody Zeller minutes. That would be fantastic for my lineups.
Yeah, and if Bam gets in foul trouble, people will make fun of him on Twitter. Like that's what's going to happen. People like to make fun of Bam.
It's usually how it goes.
Let me double check Discord. Make sure that there weren't any questions. We do have one here. Sean Sullivan Jr., Strus or Brogdon for last man in on DK? Brogdon.
Brogdon.
Your guy's Strus for this slate? I know you're ready to.
Oh my God, I can't.
You're ready. I know you were ready to take YouTube's advice the other day when Strus was hitting some threes early in the game. Is he somebody you're playing for this 1-game slate, or is he somebody you are still totally off?
No. So again, the Max Strus stuff is over with. Like the worst of it is over. Those were 2-game slates where pricing, you just knew people were going to keep going for it over and over again. He's at 21.3%. I think it's just fine to have a little bit on both sides here. 5,600 is his number over on DK? Yeah, it's a completely different situation when you're talking about a 1-game slate. I'm making enough lineups. There's no way I would be full out fading Max Strus. So I'm right around the field. He's not going to make or break my night.
All right, there we go. Max Strus. Let's see. What is his most recent ownership? We have Max Strus projected for
21%.
21.6% on DraftKings. That includes 1.6% in the captain. Over on FanDuel, Strus is 19.8%, 4.1% owned in the pro spot. I do not like him as a play in the pro spot today.
Max Strus in the pro spot?
Yeah, picking up ownership.
Let me pull up myself again. The pro is where I'm really making my large stand on Robert Williams. That is my Robert Williams spot today. So I'd be just fine if he decides to go off, because then I'll just win it on FanDuel or everything. And I have way more volume today. Max Strus, yeah, I've got 6% of it, so I'm actually over the field on that. I apologize to my friends and family.
Oh my God, they're going to disown you. Yeah, I can't advocate for 4%. Own Max Strus in the pros, but I know he's had some games where he's hit threes in the postseason. There are a lot of good fantasy producers in this series. Max Strus. I'm going to be like you the other day with Max Strus. Anybody but him. Not Max Strus.
Yeah. How about Jimmy Butler? 2.6% owned in the pro spot. Like, it's very clear cut that you could go Jason Tatum, and he's the guy I'm just going to play everywhere there. You could get to anybody else outside of Jaylen Brown and then Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. If you can find one other piece, like that's Al Horford, Kyle Lowry, anything else, Jimmy Butler 2% in the pro is pretty wild. I think I might have overlooked that. I got to rerun something.
Yeah. So we've got, while you're doing that, we've got some more super chats that are coming. We'll answer those in a second, but I also want to let you guys know that if you've not signed up for MLB lineup generator yet, totally new tool that we have here over at Stokastic, came out now, about a week ago to the day, something like that, since the MLB lineup generator came out. If you guys are new to baseball DFS and you've been in the NBA streets, you're trying to figure out how to dip your toes into the waters of baseball, this is the way to do it. Sign up for our MLB lineup generator. If you're totally new to a package over at Stokastic, sign up using the link we have below. It's going to get you 50% off, so that could get you access to the MLB lineup generator for less than $5. Pretty good value there. And it's just really easy to use. If you're somebody, like I said, who's new to baseball, maybe you're short on time, you get back from work, you don't have time to go through all the different stacks, all the different pitchers, all the different teams, just pretty regularly big baseball slates. Just use our MLB lineup generator. It's going to ask you a couple of questions. What kind of stack you want to make? Are there any players you want to lock in? Do you want to make a contrarian lineup? Do you want to make a chalky lineup? From there, you're going to crunch out lineups, and it is going to give you ones that we're projecting in our simulations to be plus EV. And that's really all it is to it. Right from there, you export those lineups into DraftKings, export them into FanDuel. It's going to make you money over the long haul. And best of all, like I said before, if you're signing up for the first time, you use the link we have below and you can get access for less than $5. So go check out the MLB lineup generator. Now, Malcolm Revamp left us a super chat here. By the way, how are you doing on adjusting your lineups?
I'm good. I got no problem. It's a one game slate. Okay. I just want to make sure that I get a little bit more Jimmy Butler in the pro because nobody's doing that.
And then what was the change? Like, who did you get more of in the what I'm trying to remember the.
So I was jamming and I'm still jamming Robert Williams in the pro.
Okay.
I think 5.6%. The ownership's actually come down, I think, from when we had started talking about it. I'm just rerunning it where Malcolm Brogdon, he's a really prominent part of those builds too. I'm overweight to him there, but as a result, I'm just getting to less Jimmy Butler in the star spot where I think he's going to be very popular, him and Jaylen Brown. I'm just finding ways to get to a little bit more Bam. I think he might end up a little bit under-owned in that star spot relative to the other two. I mean, he should, but those Jimmy Butler builds are going to be pretty identical when you start going Tatum, Butler. Those I'm pretty much guaranteeing that I'm going to get Robert Williams in the pro. So I just put a rule in to make sure that happens.
Gotcha. Makes sense. I don't have any issues with that at all. Super chat from Malcolm Revamp. He has $6,800 left on DraftKings. He is considering Kyle Lowry, Malcolm Brogdon, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, or Derek White. Who do we want him to play of those options? For me, I am going to go to Malcolm Brogdon. I'll read you off.
Brogdon. Yep, I just saw it. Okay. Brogdon. Yep, same one. It'd be Brogdon or Lowry for me.
Yeah, and one thing that's kind of nice here, if you're going with Brogdon, you're leaving salary on the table, right? Because we've got Brogdon, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head, 6,200, right? 6,200 for Brogdon compared to the $6,800 for Lowry. Yeah, if you're just leaving those $600 on the table, it's going to differentiate your lineup fairly significantly. One question about FanDuel for you as you are building out your lineups. How many lineups are you building where you use all of the salary, if any?
0, because I put a cap of 5,900.
Yep, I do that very regularly with my FanDuel lineups as well. I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, that's you're sharp like that, so it does not surprise me.
Oh, thank you. All right, no more questions. We're all caught up on those, although I'm going to be keeping an eye on them just to make sure in case anything else comes up. If you have them for me, at me in the Discord. And if you guys have not done it yet, do us a favor, like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I want to look at some bets here, Eric. And I'm going to pull up NBA Bet Pro right now, which if you guys have not checked out yet, you can get access totally free for 7 days on a free trial using the link that we have below. Do you have any bets that you've placed for tonight's game?
I do have a couple of them. Got some pick'em ones, got some straight up bets. It's going to be a fun night.
Loading our projections right now to see what comes up. And what's still available from earlier in the day? I know one of my favorite bets. I mentioned two that I bet earlier in the day. I liked one was under 10.5 rebounds for Jason Tatum, which is still available. I like under 10.5 boards for Jason Tatum. Best available line is at FanDuel right now at -134. Is that a number you like, or is there anything else that's still on the board that stands out to you, Eric?
Let me pull it up here. So Al Horford rebounds was something that I bet last night that I thought stood out quite a bit here. I'm just pulling up what those lines are. I had to finish up FanDuel here too, as I was going to it. But it was 6.5 rebounds from last night. Jimmy Butler under PRA. I thought that was a pretty straightforward one for me as well. From last night, I just want to double check with BetPro, see kind of where those numbers are at. It was at 40.5 last night. Want to see what the juice is attached to it. Make sure that I don't screw that up. Not betting anything from the game. I'm pretty sure 8.5, 8 feels pretty efficient, looks pretty efficient, grades out pretty efficiently. But let's see what happened to those. Al Horford. We now have the over. So if you're looking at Thrive, you're looking at other places too. Al Horford 7.5 points seems to be jumping up pretty nicely as well. But I want to see what happened to those rebounds. That was one it's pretty firmly on.
I had
6.5. Yeah.
I had one. I don't think it's there anymore. I tweeted about it earlier, and it is. Yeah, it's gone now. So earlier in the day, I bet Jimmy Butler.
Gone.
Yeah, I bet Jimmy Butler. That's one reason also when I'm doing this that I try to refresh NBA Bet Pro and make sure that I'm talking about the most recent lines, because I could tell you that I bet Jimmy Butler under 6.5 rebounds plus 115 earlier in the day. But what good does it give you? That's -120 now. Doesn't really help. Although one of the reasons to check out all the data and tools that we have earlier in the day. But looking through everything else, the one that's still on the board that I bet that I said I still like is Jason Tatum under 10.5 rebounds. There's nothing else I really love that's on the board right now.
Yeah, it's definitely trimmed as the day's gone on. Like last night, there were some numbers that looked really, really good. Doesn't really look like anything projects all that well for us at this point. Yeah, make sure you're betting earlier in the day. There's a reason that I do a lot of my betting stuff the night before, just trying to get everybody updated for the next day's games, because it's always more advantageous to get in at the early numbers.
For sure. For sure. Just a few minutes left to go here. And Eric, I know you said you were running one final crunch of your lineups.
All done.
Anything significantly changed from what we talked about earlier in the show when you ran those lineups again?
So I have a lot. I have a lot of the Jason Tatum MVP, and now it's just turning into more Bam Adebayo in the star. I think Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, it's hard to get away from fading Jimmy Butler in the star spot with some of those Jason Tatums, but making sure that I do have Robert Williams as the run back in the pro. I now have 64% Robert Williams in the pro spot over on FanDuel. That is going to just be, I think I would probably trim that down if I weren't on a show. I would probably just say screw it, but I think that it's actually a really, really good point of leverage. There are blocks and steals opportunities where he could just spike it. And for those specific lineups, you need to have some salary savings when you're going to go Tatum and Mr. Jimmy Butler. So why not just make your $7,500 guy, Robert Williams, in the pro spot, building around with him like Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, Max Strus, playing almost all of those guys exclusively at the utility.
And we've got one more question in the Discord, and then that's going to bring us to lock. So we've got Misclick Genius is saying, do we want to, or just general, right? So he's trying to consider a 1v1 here, and he wants to know Lowry over Smart based on the ownership gap between the two of them. We've got Lowry projected for about half the ownership of Marcus Smart. So overall, over the course of 150 lineups, I get to more of Marcus Smart than Kyle Lowry. But with that said, I am underweight to the field on Smart and overweight to the field on Lowry. If you have an otherwise chalky lineup, I think it's a really good way to lower your ownership there. Just go with Lowry instead of Smart. But it's going to depend who else is in that lineup. In general, if it's just like a cash game, 1v1, it's going to be Marcus Smart. But if you're playing a tournament and it's a chalky lineup already, then Lowry for differentiation.
Love all of that.
All right. That is going to do it for us today then, guys. If you have not done it yet, do us a favor. Like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tomorrow night, if I'm not mistaken, you're back on LBL with me, Eric?
I am back on LBL. I'll I'll be in a hotel room out there in old Utah. It'll be beautiful stuff.
Oh, all right.
Have
Very
some
fun.
fun.
So check us back out tomorrow night. It'll be Eric and I again breaking down game 2 of Lakers and the Nuggets. So go check that out tonight. I hope you guys all enjoy the game. Have a great night, and I'll see you guys back here tomorrow.